I'm back. I'm back. I'm gonna wait for people to come on because I'm on part 2. I wanted to cut it in half. Part 2 of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. There you go. There's Jaren. Okay, good. I got Jaren. Alright. Sorry, you guys. I wanted to cut it off. I didn't want to get weirdly cut off. So it's time for part 2. And, I ate my whole thing. That wasn't a burrito. That was just a bunch of rolled up tortillas. There's Nick. Hold on. There's Nick. There's Eric. Okay, everybody's back. Where's Sarah? Sarah? Sarah, you here, baby? Where's my Sarah? Sarah? Girl, I miss you. I love you. Oh, Joyce. Hey, I miss you too and love you too. Okay, here I go. I'm going to do it again. Part 2. Video part 2. Book part 2. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. For the kids. It's for the kids for Easter. Okay. I made the tortillas, Nick. I made them. I found flour. Casey J. Hazel. Casey J. No butter. They're cold. But when you make them fresh, you can eat them cold. They're like little fucking dough babies. I don't know what you want to call them. Bomb. Also delicious to eat warm. Duh. Okay. Part 2. Part 2, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This is page 99. Okay? No butter. I just ate them cold to just get them in my belly because I don't want to get fucked up right now because I'm drinking Four Locos. Four Locos! I'm feeling them though. Having a good time. Really want to smoke a cigarette, but I don't want to take that long of a break. Don't tell my mom. Okay, part 2, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Yeah. About 20 miles east of Baker, I stopped to check the drug bag. The sun was hot and I felt like killing something. Anything. Even a big lizard. Drill the fucker. I got my attorney's 357 Magnum out of the trunk and spun the cylinder. It was loaded all the way around. Long, nasty little slugs, 158 grains with a fine, flat trajectory, and a painted Aztec gold on the tips. I blew the horn a few times, hoping to call up an iguana. Get the buggers moving. They were out there. I knew it was goddamn sea of cactus. Hunkered down, barely breathing, and every one of these stinking little bastards was loaded with deadly poison. The fast explosions knocked me off balance. 3 deafening double-action blasts from the 357 into my right hand. Jesus! Firing at nothing, for no reason at all. Bad craziness. I tossed the gun into the front seat of the Shark and stared nervously at the highway. No cars either way. The road was empty for 2 or 3 miles in both directions. Fine luck. It would do nothing. It would not do to be found in the desert under these circumstances. Firing wildly into the cactus from a car full of drugs, and especially not now, on the lam, from the highway patrol. Awkward questions would arise. Well now, Mr. Duke, you understand, of course, that it is illegal to discharge a firearm of any kind while standing on a federal highway. What? Even in self-defense? This goddamn gun has a hair trigger, officer. The truth is, I only meant to fire once. Just to scare the little bastards. A heavy stare then sparked very slowly. Are you saying, Mr. Duke, that you were attacked out here? Well, no. Not literally attacked, officer, but seriously menaced. I stopped to piss, and the minute I stepped out of the car, that filthy little bags of poison were all around me. They moved like greased lightning. Bags of poison. Would this story hold up? No. They would place me under arrest, and then routinely search the car. And when that happened, all kinds of savage hell would break loose. They would never believe all these drugs were necessary to my work. That in truth, I was a professional journalist on my way to Las Vegas to cover the National District Attorney's Conference on narcotics and dangerous drugs. Just samples, officer. I got this stuff off the road, man, for the Neo-American Church back in Barstow. He started acting funny, so I worked him over. Would they buy this? No. They would lock me in some hellhole of a jail and beat me on the kidneys with big branches, causing me to piss blood for years to come. Luckily, nobody bothered me while I ran quick inventory on the kit bag. The stash was a hopeless mess, all churned together and half crushed. Some of the mescaline pellets had disintegrated into a reddish-brown powder, but I counted about 35 or 40 still intact. My attorney had eaten all the reds, but there was still quite a bit of speed left. No more grass. The Coke bottle was empty. 1 acid blotter, a nice brown lump of opium hash, and 6 loose amyls. Not enough for anything serious, but a careful rationing of the mescaline would probably get us through the 4-day drug conference. On the outskirts of Vegas, I stopped at a neighborhood pharmacy and bought 2 quarts of gold tequila, 2 fifths of Chivas Regal, and a pint of ether. I was tempted to ask for some amyls. My angina pectoris was starting to act up. The druggist had the eyes of a mean Baptist hysteric. I told him I needed ether to get the tape off my legs. But by that time, he'd already rung the stuff up and bagged it. He didn't give a fuck about the ether. I wondered what he would say if I asked him for $22 worth of Romular and a tank of nitrous oxide. Probably would have sold it to me. Why not? Free enterprise. Give the public what it needs. Especially this bad, sweaty, nervous talking fellow with the tape all over his legs. This terrible cough along with angina pectoris and those god-awful aneurystic flashes every time he gets in the sun. I mean, this fellow was in bad shape, officer. How the hell was I to know that he'd walk straight into his car and start abusing those drugs? How indeed? I lingered at a moment at the magazine rack and then got a grip of myself and hurried outside to the car. The idea of going completely crazy on laughing gas in the middle of the DA's drug conference had a definite warped appeal. But none of that, not on the first day, I thought. Save that for later. No point getting busted and committed before the conference even starts. I stole a review journal from the rack in the parking lot, but I threw it away after reading a story on one page. Surgery uncertain, after eyes removed. Baltimore. Doctor said Friday there was an uncertain whether surgery would succeed in restoring the eyesight of a young man who pulled out his eye while suffering the effects of a drug overdose in a jail cell. Charles Inez Jr., 25, underwent surgery late last Thursday at Maryland General Hospital, but doctors said it may be weeks before they could determine the outcome. A statement issued by the hospital reported that Inez had no light perception in either eye prior to surgery, and the possibility he will ever have light perception is extremely poor. Inez, son of a prominent Massachusetts Republican, was found in jail cell Thursday by a turnkey who said Inez had pulled out his eyeballs. Inez was arrested Wednesday night while walking nude through a neighborhood near where he lived. He was examined by Mercy Hospital and placed in jail. Police and one of the Inez friends said that he had taken an overdose of an animal tranquilizer. Police reported the drug was PCP, a Park Davis product not sold for human medical purposes since 1963. However, a spokesman for Park Davis said that he thought the drug might be available on the black market. Taken alone, the spokesman said PCP's effects would not last more than 12 to 14 hours. However, the effects of PCP combined with a hallucinogen such as LSD were not known. Inez told a neighbor that Saturday, the day after he first took the drug, that his eyes were bothering him and that he could not read. Wednesday night, police said Inez seemed to be in a deeply depressed state and so impervious to pain that he did not scream when he pulled out his own eyes. Jesus. All right. Part 2, Chapter 2, Part 2, Section 2, I guess. Another day, another convertible, and another hotel full of cops. The first order of business was to get rid of the red shark. It was too obvious. Too many people might recognize it, especially the Vegas police. Although as far as they knew, the thing was already back home in LA. It was last seen running at top speed across Death Valley and Interstate 15, stopped in Warren and Baker by the CHP, then suddenly disappeared. The last place they would look for it. I felt in a rental car lot at the airport. I had to go out there anyway to meet my attorney. He would be arriving from LA in the late afternoon. I drove very quietly on the freeway, gripping my normal instinct for bursts of acceleration and sudden lane changes, trying to remain inconspicuous. And when I got there, I parked the shark between 2 old Air Force buses in a utility lot, about a half a mile from the terminal. Very tall buses, make it hard as possible for the fuckers. A little walking never hurt anybody. By the time I got to the terminal, I was pouring sweat, but nothing abnormal. I tend to sweat heavily in warm climates. My clothes are soaking wet from dawn to dusk. This worried me at first, but when I went to a doctor and described my normal daily intake of booze, drugs, and poison, he told me to come back when the sweating stopped. That would be the danger point, he said. A sign that my body's desperately overworked. Flushing mechanism had broken down completely. Oh, somebody wrote all over this part. I have great faith in the natural process, he said. But in your case, well, I find no precedent. We'll just have to wait and see, then work with what's left. I spent about 2 hours in the bar drinking Bloody Marys from the V8 nutritional content and watching the flights from LA. I'd eaten nothing but grapefruit for the past 24 hours and my head was adrift from the moorings. You'd better watch yourself, I thought. There are limits to what the human body can endure. You want to break down and start bleeding from the ears and right here and in the terminal. Not in this town. In Vegas, they'll kill the weak and deranged. I realized this and kept quiet, even when I felt symptoms of a terminal blood sweat coming on. But this passed. I saw the cocktail waitress getting nervous, so I forced myself to get up and walk stiffly out to the bar. No signs of my attorney. Down to the VIP car rental booth where I traded the red Shark in for a white Cadillac convertible. This goddamn Chevy was causing me a lot of trouble, I told him. I get the feeling that people are putting me down, especially in gas stations when I have to get out and open the hood manually. Well, of course, said the man behind the desk. What you need, I think, is one of our Mercedes 600-ton cruiser specials with air conditioning. You can even carry your own fuel if you want. We make that available. Do I look like a goddamn Nazi? I have a natural American car, nothing at all. They called up the white coupe de ville at once. Everything was automatic. I could sit in the red leather driver's seat and make every inch of the car jump. By touching the proper buttons, it was a wonderful machine. 10 grand worth of gimmicks and high-speed special effects. His rear windows leaped up with a touch, like a frog in dynamite pond, and like frogs in a dynamite pond. The white canvas top ran up like a roller coaster. The dashboard was full of esoteric lights and dials and meters, and I would never understand. And there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted a superior machine. The Caddy wouldn't get off the line quite as fast as the red Shark, but once I got rolling, around 80, it was pure smooth hell. All the elegant, upholstered weight lashing across the desert was like rolling through midnight on the old California Zephyr. I handed the transaction with the credit card that I had later learned was canceled, completely bogus, but the big computer hadn't mixed me in yet, so I was still fat gold credit card risk. Later, looking back on this transaction, I knew the conversation had almost certainly ensued. Hello, this is VIP Car Rentals in Las Vegas. We're calling to check on number 875045616B. Just a routine credit check, nothing urgent. Long pause at the other end, then... Holy shit! What? Pardon me? Yes, we have that number. It's been placed on an emergency red line status. Call the police and don't let them out of your sight. Well, you see, that number is not on our current red list, and number 875045616B just left our new Cadillac convertible. No! He's long gone, totally insured. Where? I think he said St. Louis. That's what the card said, Raul Duke. Left fielder and batting champion of the St. Louis Browns. I wonder that's true, I looked that up. 5 days at $25 per hour, plus 25 cents a mile. His card was valid, so of course we had no choice. This is true. The car rental agency had no legal reason to hassle me. Since my car was technically valid, during the next 4 days I drove the car all over Las Vegas, passing the VIP agency's main office on Paradise Boulevard several times. At no time was I bothered to show off rudeness. This is one of the hallmarks of Vegas hospitality. The only bedrock rule is don't burn them with the locals. Beyond that, nobody cares. They would rather not know. If Charlie Manson checked into the Sahara tomorrow morning, nobody would hassle him as long as he tipped big. That's true. That's true. Okay. I drove straight to the hotel after renting the car. There was still no sign of my attorney, so I decided to check in on my own, if only to get off the street and avoid public breakdown. I left the whale in the VIP parking garage and shambled myself consciously into the lobby with one small leather bag, a handcrafted custom-built satchel that had just been made for me by a leathersmith friend in Boulder. Our room was at the Flamingo, in the nerve center of the Strip, right across the street from Caesar's Palace and the Dunes site of the drag conference. The bulk of the conferencees were standing at the Dunes, but those of us who signed up fashionably late were assigned to the Flamingo. The place was full of cops. I saw this at a glance. Most of them were just standing around trying to look casual, all dressed exactly alike in their cut-rate Vegas casuals, plaid Bermuda shorts, Arnie Palmer golf shirts, and hairless white legs tapering down to rubberized beach sandals. It was all just a bit terrifying to walk into. A super stakeout of some kind. If I hadn't known about the conference, my mind might have snapped, yet got the impression that somebody was going to be gunned down in a blazing crossfire at any moment. Maybe the entire Manson family. My arrival was badly timed. Most of the national DAs and other cop types had already checked in. There were people who stood around the lobby and stared grimly at newcomers. What happened to be the final stakeout was only about 200 vacationing cops with nothing better to do. They didn't even notice each other. I waited up to the desk and got in line. The man in front of me was a police chief from some small town in Michigan. His Agnew-style wife was standing about 3 feet off to his right while he arranged the desk clerk. "Look, fella, I told you I had a postcard here that says I have reservations in this hotel. Well, I'm at the district attorney's conference. I've already paid for my room." "Sorry, sir. You're on the late list. Your reservations were transferred to the Moonlight Motel, which is just on Paradise Boulevard and actually a very fine place of lodging, and only 16 blocks from here, with its own pool and—" "You dirty little faggot! Call the manager! I'm tired of this listening to this dog shit." The manager appeared and offered to call a cab. This was obviously a second or maybe even the third act in the cruel drama that had begun. Long before I showed up, the police chief's wife was crying. The gaggle of friends he'd mustered to support were too embarrassed to back him up. Even now in this showdown at the desk with this angry little cop firing his best and final shot, they knew he was beaten, was going against the rules, and people hired to enforce those rules said no vacancy. Gotta switch my record. Hi, Aubrey. Gotta switch my record. So as you know, I'm reading Fear and Loathing Las Vegas. This is part 2. There's a previous video, but this is live. So I'll be back. Let me switch this record here. Good. Was that just side 1 or side 2? That was side 2. I already flipped it. Okay. I already flipped it. Time for a new one. Time for a new one. Time for a new vinyl. Here it comes. I'm getting it right now, you guys. I'm sorry. Sorry. Here we go. Here we go. Let me get something to wake me up a little bit. Yeah, X-Cult. Here we go. Some pump. Here we got X-Cult. X-Cult. Something will wake me up. I want to wake up. I'm not tired. I am having fun. This is fun reading to you guys. Will I do it again? Probably not. Probably not. Enjoy it while it's alive. Okay. Organizing cops. National family. National DAs. Wait, where was I? You're a little faggot. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Oh, this is a good record. Hopefully you can still hear me. Okay. So now I was just giving their argument back to them. It didn't matter who was right or wrong, man. Or who's paid, or whose bill, and who hasn't. What matters right now is for you, the first time in my life, I can work out on a pig. Fuck you, officer. I am in charge here. And I'm telling you, we don't have a room for you. I was enjoying this whip song, but after a while I felt dizzy, bad, nervous, and my impatience got the better of my amusement. So I stepped around the pig and spoke directly to the desk clerk. "Say, I hate to interrupt, but I have a reservation, and I wonder if maybe I could just sort of slide through and get out of your way." I smiled, letting him know that I'd been digging his snake bully act of the cop party and was now standing there, psychologically off balance and staring at me like I was some kind of water rat crawling up to the desk. I looked pretty bad, wearing old Lewis and White Chuck Taylor All-Stars black basketball sneakers, and my 10 peso Acapulco shirt had long since come apart at the shoulder seams from all that road wind. My beard was about 3 days old, bordering on standard wino trim, and my eyes were totally hidden by Sandy Bull's Saigon mirror shades. But my voice had the tone of a man who knows he has a reservation. I was gambling on my attorney's foresight, but I couldn't pass a chance to put the horn onto a cop. And I was right. The reservation in my attorney's name. The desk clerk hit his bell to summon the bag boy. "This is all I have with me right now," I said. "No, the rest is out there in the white Cadillac convertible." I pointed to the car that we could all see parked just outside the front door. "Can you have somebody drive it around to the room?" The desk clerk was friendly. "Don't worry about a thing, sir. Just enjoy your stay here. And if there's anything you need, just call the desk." I nodded and smiled, half watching the stunned reaction of the cop crowd right next to me. They were stupid with shock. Here they were arguing with every piece of leverage they could command for a room they'd already paid for, and suddenly their whole act gets sideswept by some crusty drifter who looks not like something out of an upper Michigan hobo jungle, and he checks in with a handful of credit cards. Jesus, what's happening in this world? Allah! Allah, Munir. Okay, part 2, chapter 3, Savage Lucy. Teeth like baseballs, eyes like jellied fire. This is a bad part, right, Jaren? Jaren knows. Okay. Sven, yeah, that was his name, right? In the movie. That was Don Draper, wasn't it? The guy that played the bellboy person in the movie was Mad Men. What's his name? I can't remember his name. I think he was a baby. Okay. Savage Lucy. Teeth like baseballs, eyes like jellied fire. I gotta think of a voice for her. Okay. I gave my bag to the boy who scurried up and told him to bring the quart of wild turkey and 2/5 of Bacardi Añejo with a night's worth of ice. Bacardi Añejo? I just want to drink some Bacardi Añejo now. Our room was in one of the farthest wings of the Flamingo. The place was far more than a hotel. It was sort of a huge, under-financed Playboy club in the middle of the desert. Something like 9 separate wings with interconnecting causeways and pools. A vast complex, sliced up by a maze of car ramps and driveways. It took me about 20 minutes to wander from the desert to the distant wing we'd been assigned to. My idea was to get into the room, accept the booze and baggage delivery, then smoke my last big chunk of Singapore Grey while watching Walter Cronkite and waiting for my attorney to arrive. I needed this break, this moment of peace and refuge before we did the drug conference. It was going to be quite different from the Mint 400 that had been the Observer gig. But this one would need participation in a very special stance. At the Mint 400, we were dealing with an essentially simpatico crowd, and if our behavior was gross and outrageous, well, it was only a matter of degree. By this time, our very presence would be an outrage. We would be attending the conference under false pretenses and dealing, from the start, with a crowd that was convinced for the stated purpose of putting people like us in jail. We served the menace, not in disguise, but stone obvious drug abusers. With a flagrantly cranked up act like we intended to push all the way to the limit. Not prove any final sociological point, and not even a conscious mockery. It was mainly a matter of lifestyle, a sense of obligation and even duty. If the pigs were gathering in Las Vegas for a top-level drug conference, we felt the drug culture should be represented. Beyond that, it'd been out of my head for so long that a gig like this seemed perfectly logical. Considering the circumstances, I felt totally meshed with my karma. Okay. Or at least I was feeling this way until I got to the big gray door that opened to a mini suite 1150 in the far right wing. I rammed my key into the knob lock and swung the door open thinking, home at last. But the door hit something, which I recognized as a human form. A girl of intermediate age, with the face and form of a pit bull. She was wearing a shapeless blue smock and her eyes were angry. Somehow I knew that I had the right room. I wanted to think otherwise, but the vibes were hopelessly right. And she seemed to know, too, because she was to move to stop me when I moved past her in the suite. I tossed my leather satchel on the beds and looked around for what I knew I would see. My attorney, stark naked, standing in the bathroom door, with a drug-addled grin on his face. "You degenerate pig!" I muttered. "It can't be helped," he said, nodding at the bulldog girl. "This is Lucy." He laughed distractedly. "You know, like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds?" I nodded to Lucy, who was eyeing me with definite venom. I was clearly some kind of enemy, some ugly intrusion on her scene. and it was clear from the way she moved around the room, very quick and tense on her feet, that she was sizing me up. She was ready for violence. There was not much doubt about that. Even my attorney picked up on it. Lucy! Lucy, be cool, goddammit! Remember what happened at the airport? No more of that, okay? He smiled nervously at her. She had the look of the she had the look of a beast that had just been tossed into a sawdust pit to fight for its life. Lucy, this is my client. This is Mr. Duke, the famous journalist. He's paying for this suite. He's on our side. She said nothing. I could see that she was not entirely in control of herself. Huge shoulders on a woman, and a chin like Oscar Bonavena. I sat down on the bed and casually reached into my satchel for the mace can. When I felt my thumb on the shoot button, I was tempted to jerk the thing out and soak her down for general principle. I desperately needed peace, rest, sanctuary. The last thing I wanted was a fight to the finish in my own hotel room with some kind of drug-crazed hormone monster. My attorney seemed to understand this. He knew why my hand was in the satchel. No, not here. We have to move out. I shrugged. He was twisted. I could see that, and so was Lucy. Her eyes were feverish and crazy. She was staring at me like I was something that would have to be rendered helpless before I could get back to whatever she considered normal. My attorney idled over and put his arm around her shoulders. Mr. Duke is my friend. He loves artists. Let's show him your paintings. For this time I noticed that the room was full of artwork. Maybe 40 or 50 portraits, some in oil, some charcoal, all more or less the same size, and all the same face. They were propped up on every flat surface. The face was vaguely familiar. I couldn't get a fix on it. It was a girl with a broad mouth, a big nose, and extremely glittering eyes. A demonically sensual face. The kind of overslated, embarrassingly dramatic renderings that you find in the bedrooms of young female art students who get hung up on horses. Lucy paints portraits of Barbra Streisand. She's an artist up in Montana. What's that town where you live? She stared at him, then at me, and then back at my attorney again. Then finally she said,
Kalispell, way up north. I drew this from TV.
Here's a picture of all the cops in the hotel lobby. You make that out? All the cops and their bellies and shit in the hotel lobby. Drawing by Ralph Steadman. Fantastic. Let me show that again for Erica, who just came on. She loves cartoons and shit. Ralph Steadman, all the cops in the hotel lobby for the cop convention or whatever. DA convention. Against drug use or whatever. Okay. My attorney nodded eagerly. Fantastic, he said. Oh, fantastic. She came all the way down here to just give these portraits to Barbara. We're going over to the Americana Hotel tonight to meet her backstage. Lucy smiled bashfully. There was no more hostility in her. I dropped the mace and stood up. We obviously had a serious case on our hands. I hadn't counted on this. Finding my attorney whacked on acid and locked into some kind of preternatural courtship? Well, I guess they brought the car around by now. Let's get the stuff out of the trunk. Absolutely. Let's get the stuff. We'll be right back. Don't answer the phone if it rings. She grinned and made a one-fingered Jesus freak sign. God bless. My attorney pulled on a pair of elephant leg pants and a glazed black shirt. Then we hurried out to the room. I could see he was having trouble getting oriented. But I refused to humor him. Well, what are your plans? Plans? Well, we're waiting for the elevator. Lucy. He shook his head, struggling to focus on the question. Shit. I met her on the plane. I had all that acid. You know, those little blue barrels. Jesus, she's a religious freak. She's running away from home for something like the 5th time in 6 months. It's terrible. I gave her that cap before I realized, shit, she's never even had a drink. Well, it'll probably work out. We can keep her loaded and peddle her ass to the drug convention. At the drug convention. She's perfect for the gig. These cops will go $50 a head to beat her into submission, then gang fuck her. We can set her up in one of these backstreet motels, hang pictures of Jesus all over the room, and then turn these pigs loose on her. Hell, she's strong. She'll hold her own. His face was twitching badly. We were in the elevator now, descending into the lobby.
Jesus Christ. I knew you were sick, but I never expected to hear you actually say that kind of stuff.
He seemed stunned. I laughed. It's straight economics. This girl is a godsend. I fixed him with a natural Bogart smile, all teeth. Shit, we're almost broke. And suddenly you pick up some muscle-bound loony who can make us $1,000 a day.
No! Stop talking like that.
The elevator door opened and we walked toward the parking lot. I figured she can do about 4 or 5 at a time. Christ, if we keep her full of acid, that's more than $2,000 a day. Maybe 3.
You filthy bastard. I should cave your fucking head in.
He was squinting at me and shielding his eyes from the sun. I spotted the whale about 50 feet from the door. There it is. Not a bad-looking car for a pimp. He groaned. His face reflected the struggle I knew he was having in his brain. While sporadic acid rushes, bad waves of painful intensity, followed by total confusion, when I opened the trunk of the whale to get our bags, he got in angry.
What the hell are you doing?
This isn't Lucy's car. I know. It's mine. This is my luggage.
The fuck it is? Just because I'm a goddamn lawyer doesn't mean you can walk around stealing stuff right in front of me. What the hell is wrong with you? We'll never beat a rap like this.
Alright. After much difficulty, we got back to the room and tried to have a serious talk with Lucy. I felt like a Nazi, but it had to be done. She was not right for us. Not for this fragile situation. It was bad enough if she wore what she appeared to be, a strange young girl in the throes of a bad psychotic episode. But what worried me far more than that was the likelihood that she would probably just she was probably just sane enough in a few hours to work herself into a towering Jesus-based rage at the hazy recollection of being picked up and seduced in the Los Angeles International Airport by some kind of cruel Samoan who fed her liquor and LSD. Then dragged her to the Vegas hotel room and savagely penetrated every orifice in her body with his throbbing, uncircumcised member. I had a terrible vision of Lucy crashing into Barbara Streisand's dressing room at the Americana and laying with this brutal story on her that would finish us. They would track us down and probably castrate us both prior to booking. I explained this to my attorney, who was now in tears at the idea of sending Lucy away. She was still powerfully twisted, and I felt the only solution was to get her as far as possible from the Flamingo before she got straight to the remember where she'd been and what happened to her. Lucy, while we argued, was lying on the patio doing a charcoal sketch of Barbra Streisand. From memory, this time was a full-faced rendering, with the teeth like baseballs and eyes like the jellied fire. The sheer intensity of the thing made me nervous. This girl was a walking bomb. God only knows what she might be doing with all that miswired energy. Right now, if she didn't have her sketch pad, and what she'd be doing, what she was going to do when she got straight enough to read The Vegas Visitor, as I just had, and learned that Streisand wasn't due at the Americana for another 3 weeks. My attorney finally agreed that Lucy would have to go. The possibility of a Mann Act conviction, resulting in a disbarment proceedings and a total loss of his livelihood, was a key factor in this decision. A nasty federal rap, especially for a monster Samoan facing a typical white male middle-class jury in Southern California. They might even call it kidnapping, I said. Straight to the gas chamber, like chessmen. And even if you manage to beat that, we'll send you back to Nevada for the rape and consensual sodomy.
No! I felt sorry for the girl. I wanted to help her.
Well, that's what Fatty Arbuckle said. And you know what they did to him?
Who?
Never mind. Just picture yourself telling a jury that you tried to help the poor girl by giving her LSD, and then taking her out to Vegas for one of your special stark naked back rubs.
You're right. They'll probably burn me at the goddamn stake. Set me on fire right there, in the dock. Shit. It doesn't pay to try and help somebody these days.
We coaxed Lucy down to the car, telling her that we thought it was time to go meet Barbara. We had no trouble convincing her that she should take all her artwork, but she couldn't understand why. My attorney wanted to bring her suitcase along.
I don't want to embarrass her. She'll think I'm trying to move in with her or something.
No, she won't, I said quickly, but that was all I could think of to say. I felt like Marlon Borman. Who's that? Martin Borman, who would happen to this poor wretch when we cut her loose. Jail? White slavery? What would Dr. Darwin do in these circumstances? Survival of the fittest? Was the proper word? Had Darwin ever considered the idea of temporary unfitness, like temporary insanity? Could the doctor have made room in the theory for a thing like LSD? All this was academic, of course. Lucy was a potentially fatal millstone in both our necks. There was absolutely no choice to cut her adrift and hope her memory was fucked. But some acid victims, especially nervous mongoloids, have a strange kind of idiot savant capacity for remembering odd details and nothing else. It was possible that Lucy might spend 2 or more days in the grip of total amnesia, then snap out of it with no memory of anything but our room number at the Flamingo. Let me switch the record here. Hey, Jesse Soto. Sound like Gronk? Who Gronk? Lightweight! I hope I didn't ruin my record. Shit. Oh, Gronk is from the Emperor's Groove, huh? Which guy? The one that sounds like this? Is he Gronk? Okay. I thought about this, but the only alternative was to take her out to the desert and feed her remains of the lizards. Sorry. I've been drinking. Okay. Feed her remains to the lizards. I wasn't ready for this. It seemed a bit heavy for the thing we were trying to protect. My attorney, it came down to that. The thing we were trying to protect. My attorney. It came down to that. So the problem was to work out a balance. To aim Lucy in a direction that wouldn't snap her mind and provoke a distracted backlash. She had money. My attorney had ascertained that. At least $200. And we can always call the cops up there in Montana where she lives and turn her in. I was reluctant to do this. The only thing worse than turning her loose in Vegas, I felt, was turning her over to the authorities. That was clearly out of the question anyway. Not now. What kind of goddamn monster are you, I said. First you kidnap the girl, then you rape her, and now you want to have her locked up. It just occurred to me that she has no witnesses. Anything she says about us is completely worthless. Us? I said. He stared at me, and I could see that his head was clearing. The acid was almost gone. This meant that Lucy was probably coming down, too. It was time to cut the cord. Lucy was waiting for us in the car, listening to the radio with a twisted smile on her face. We were standing about 10 yards off. Anybody watching from us from a distance might have thought we were having some kind of vicious showdown argument about who had rights to the girl. It was a standard scene for a Vegas parking lot. We finally decided to make her reservation at the Americana. My attorney ambled over to the car and got her last name under some pretense that I had hurried inside called the hotel, saying that I was her uncle and that I wanted her to be treated very gently because she was an artist and she might seem a trifle high-strung. The room clerk assured me they give her every courtesy. Then we drove her out to the airport, saying they were going to trade the White Whale in for a Mercedes 600. And my attorney looked her into the lobby with all her gear. She was still unhinged and babbling. He had led her away. I drove around the corner and waited for him. 10 minutes later, he shoveled up to the car and got in. Take off slowly. Don't attract any attention. When we got on Las Vegas Boulevard, he explained that he'd given one of the airport cab hasslers a $10 bill to see that his drunk girlfriend got to the Americana, where she had a reservation. I told him to make sure she got there. He said, "You think she will?" He nodded. The guy said he'd pay the fare with the extra $5 I gave him, and tell the cabbie to humor her. I told him I had some business to take care of, but I'd be there myself in an hour. And if the girl wasn't already checked in, I'd come back out here and rip his lungs out. That's good. You can't be subtle in this town. As your attorney, I advise you to tell me where you put the goddamn mescal in. I pulled over. The kit bag was in the trunk. He fetched out 2 pellets and we each ate one. The sun was going down behind the scrub hills northwest of the city. Good Chris Christopherson tuned his croaking on the radio. We cruised back to the town through the warm dust, relaxed on the red leather seats of our electric white Coupe de Ville. Maybe we should take it easy tonight. I said as we flashed past the Tropicana. Right.
Let's find a good seafood restaurant and eat some red salmon. I feel a powerful lust for red salmon. But first, we should go back to the hotel and set in. Maybe have a quick swim and some rum. He nodded, leaning back in the seat and staring up at the sky. Night was coming down slowly. Alright, part 2, chapter 4. No refuge for degenerates. Reflections on a murderous junkie. Let me blow my nose here. We got Don Mazzetti is who you sound like. Who's Don Mazzetti? Ugh. Oh my goodness. Ugh. Wowzers. All that talking is probably making the vibrations of whatever mucus is in my skull come down into my nose. That's my fucking theory right now. And I think that's fucking true. Because I've been talking since 8 o'clock. But I like it. Okay. Let's do it. We drove through the parking lot of the Flamingo and around the back. Through the labyrinth to our wing. No problem with parking, no problem with the elevator. And the suite was dead. Dead quiet when we entered, half dark and peacefully elegant. With the big sliding walls opening out into the lawn and into the pool. The only thing moving in the room was a red blinking message light on the telephones. Probably room service, I said. I ordered some ice and booze. I guess it came while we were gone. My attorney shrugged. We have plenty, he said. Oh, we have plenty. But we might as well get more. Oh yes. Tell him to send it up. I picked up the phone and dialed the desk. What's the message? My light is blinking? Well, Kirk seemed to hesitate. I could hear paper shuffling. Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Mr. Duke. Yes. You have 2 messages. One says, welcome to Las Vegas from the National District Attorneys Association. Wonderful, I said. And the other says, call Lucy at the Americana room, 1600. What? He repeated on the message. Call Lucy at the Americana room, 1600. There was no mistake. Holy shit, I muttered. Excuse me? I hung up. My attorney was doing the big spit again. In the bathroom. I walked out on the balcony and stared at the pool. This kidney-shaped bag of bright water had shimmered outside our suite. I felt like Othello. Here, I'd only be in town for a few hours, and we'd already laid the groundwork for a classic tragedy. The hero was doomed. He had already sowed the seed of his own downfall. But who was the hero of this filthy drama? I turned away from the pool and confronted my attorney, now emerging from the bathroom and wiping his mouth with a towel. His eyes were glazed and limped. This goddamn mescaline. Why the fuck can't they make this a little less pure? Maybe mix it up with Rolaids or something. Othello used Dramamine, I said. He nodded, hanging the towel around the neck, and he reached out and flipped the TV set. Yeah, I heard about those remedies. Your man Fatty Arbuckle used olive oil. Lucy called, I said. What? He sang basically like an animal taking a bullet. I just got the message from the desk. She's in the Americana room, 1600. In the Americana room, 1600. She wants us to call. He stared at me. And then the phone rang. I shrugged and picked it up. There was no point trying to hide. She had found us, and that was enough. Hello? I said. Is this the room clerk? This is the room clerk again, Mr. Duke. Yes? Hello, Mr. Duke. I'm sorry we were cut off a moment ago. But I thought I should call again because I was wondering. What? I sensed things closing down on us. This fucker was about to spring something on me. What had that crazy bitch said to him? I said to stay calm. We're watching the goddamn news. What the fuck are you interrupting me for? Silence. What do you want? There's no goddamn ice I ordered. Where's the goddamn ice I ordered? Where's the booze? There's a war on, man. People are being killed. Killed? He almost whispered the word. In Vietnam. On the goddamn television. Oh. Yes. Yes. This is a terrible war. When will it end? Tell me. What do you want? Of course, he said, snapping back to the desk clerk tone. I thought I should tell you, because I know you're here with the police convention, that the woman who left the message for you sounded very disturbed. He hesitated, but I said something. I thought you should know this. Oh, I thought you should know this, he said finally. What did you say to her? I asked. Nothing. Nothing at all, Mr. Duke. I merely took the message. He paused.
But it wasn't exactly easy talking to that woman. She was, well, extremely nervous. I think she was crying.
Crying? My brain had locked up. I couldn't think the drug was taking over. Why was she crying?
Well, she didn't say, Mr. Duke. But since I knew the nature of your work, I thought...
I know. Look, you want to be gentle with that woman. If she ever calls again, she's our case study. We're watching her very, very carefully. I felt my head unwinding. The words came easy. She's perfectly harmless, of course. There'll be no trouble. This woman has been into laudanum. It's a controlled experiment. But I suspect we'll need your cooperation before this thing is over.
Well, certainly. We're always happy to cooperate with the police. Just as long as there won't be any trouble. For us, I mean.
Don't worry. You're protected. Just treat this poor woman like you treat any other human being in trouble.
What?
He seemed to be stuttering.
Yes, I see what you mean, yes. So you'll be responsible then?
Of course. And now I have to get back to the news.
Thank you.
Send the ice, I said, and hung up. My attorney was smiling peacefully at the TV. Good work, he said. They'll treat us like goddamn lepers after all that. Oh, wait, excuse me. Good work. They'll treat us like goddamn lepers after all that. There you go. I nodded, filling a tall glass of Chivas Regal. There hasn't been any news on the tube for 3 hours. Oh, wait, no, this is back to him. There hasn't been any news on the tube for 3 hours. That poor fool probably thinks we're back at, and asked him to send a 3,000 watt sensing capacitor. Oh wait, hold on. That poor fool thinks we're plunged into some kind of special cop channel. You should call back and ask him to send us a 3,000 watt sensing capacitor along with the ice. Tell him Oz just burnt out. You forgot about Lucy? She's looking for you. No. She's looking for you. Me? Yeah, she's really flipped over you. The only way I could get rid of her out there in the airport was by saying you were taking me out of the desert for a showdown. That you wanted me out of the way, so she could have her all to yourself. He shrugged. Shit, I had to tell her something. Oh shit, I had to tell her something. Oh, this is crazy. I said she could go to the Americana and wait to see which one of us came back. You laughed again. I guess she figures you won. That phone message wasn't for me, was it? I nodded. It made no sense at all. But I knew it was true. Drug reasoning. The rhythms were brutally clear. And to him, they made excellent sense. He was slumped in the chair, concentrating on Mission Impossible. I thought for a while, then stood up and began stuffing things into my suitcase. What are you doing? Never mind. The zipper stuck momentarily, but I yanked it shut. Then I put on my shoes. Wait a minute. Jesus, are you leaving? I nodded. You're goddamn right, I'm leaving. But don't worry. I'll stop at the desk on my way out. You'll be taken care of. He stood up quickly, kicking his drunk over. Okay, goddammit, this is serious. Where's my 357? I shrugged, not looking at him, and I crammed the Chivas Regal bottles into my hand satchel. I sold it in Baker. I owe you 35 bucks. Jesus Christ, that thing cost me 190 goddamn dollars. You told me where you got that gun. I said, I remember. Oh yeah, that punk out in Pasadena. Then he flared again, so it cost me a goddamn grand. That asshole shot a narc. He was looking at life. Shit, 3 weeks in court, and all I got was a fucking 6-shooter. You're stupid. I warned you about dealing with junkies on credit, especially when they're guilty. You're lucky the bastard didn't pay you off with a bullet in the stomach. He was my cousin. The jury found him innocent. Shit. How many people have the junkie bastard shot since you've known him? 6? 8? The evil little fuck is so guilty that I should probably kill him myself on the general principles. He shot that narc as sure as he killed that girl at the Holiday Inn. And that guy in Ventura. You better be careful, man. You're into some heavy slander. I laughed, tossing my luggage together in a lump at the foot of the bed while I sat down to finish my drink. I actually intended to leave. I really didn't want to, but I figured that nothing could possibly do with this gig was worth the risk of getting tangled up with Lucy. No doubt was she a beautiful person, if she ever got straight. Very sensitive. with a secret reserve for fine karma underneath her pit bull act. A great talent with fine instincts. Just a heavy little gal who unfortunately went stone crazy somewhere prior to her 18th birthday. I had nothing personal against her, but I knew she was perfectly capable, under these circumstances, of sending us both to prison for at least 20 years, on the strength of some heinous story we could probably never even hear until she took the stand.
Those two men over there on the dock are the ones who gave me the LSD and took me to the hotel.
And what do they say to you then, Lucy?
Well, sir, I can't rightly remember.
Indeed. Well, perhaps this document from the district attorney's files will refresh your memory, Lucy. This is the statement you made to Officer Squunts shortly after you were found wandering naked in the desert near Lake Mead.
I don't know for sure what they done to me, but I remember it was horrible. One guy picked me up at the Los Angeles airport. He's the one who gave me the pill. And the other one met me at this hotel. He was sweating real bad, and he talked so fast I couldn't understand what he wanted. No, sir, I don't recall exactly what they did to me at that point, because I was still under the influence of that drug. Yes, sir, that LSD they gave me. And I think I was naked for a long time, maybe the whole time they had me there. I think it was evening because I remember they had the news on. Yes, sir, Walter Cronkite. I remember his face all through it.
No, I wasn't ready for this. No jury would doubt her testimony, especially when it came to, scratch my back here, especially when it came to stuttering through a fog of tears and obscene acid flashbacks. And the fact that she couldn't recall precisely what we had done to her, make it impossible to deny. The jury would know that we'd done what we had done. They would have to read about people like us in the $2.95 paperbacks, all in the hilt of all up to the hilt and only skin deep, and seen our type in the $5 fuck flicks. And of course, we couldn't possibly risk taking the stand in our own defense. Not after they cleaned out the trunk of the whale. And I'd like to thank out Your Honor that our prosecution exhibits through A through Y are available to the jury. Yes, the incredible collection of illegal drugs and narcotics, which the defense had in their possession at the time of their arrests, and the forcible seizure by no less than 9 officers, 6 of whom were all still hospitalized. And also Exhibit Z, sworn testimony by 3 professional narcotics experts, selected by President of the National District Attorney's Conference, which was seriously embarrassed by the defendants' attempts to infiltrate, disrupt, and prevent their annual convention. These experts had testified that the drug cache in the possession of the defendants at the time of the arrest was enough to kill an entire platoon of United States Marines. And gentlemen, I use the word kill with all due respect for the fear and loathing I'm sure it provokes in every one of you when you reflect that these degenerate rapists use this galaxy of narcotics to completely destroy the mind and morals of one innocent teenager. This ruined and degraded the young girl who now sits before you in shame. Yes, they fed this girl enough drugs to scramble her brain so horribly that she can no longer even recall the filthy details of that orgy she was forced to endure. And then they used her, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, for their own unspeakable ends. Woo! Part 2, Chapter 5. A terrible experience with extremely dangerous drugs. Isn't that the whole book? Let me switch the record, or flip it over. I think it's just side B time. Let me blow my nose here. Everybody having a good time? All 2 of you. Who's it, like Eric and Jaron? Haters, right? Haters fucking left. Okay. Blow that nose. All 2 of yous. Switching the record. I'm switching the record if you're just tuning on and you can't hear what's going on. Switching the record, putting one on so I can play something else. Oh, did you hear that? Switching the record. Switching the record. Switching the record for you motherfuckers. Putting on a different record for you to hear the songs while I read the book. Almost done with the book.
Having fun, I'ma finish it off. Let me play you a different record. Let me play you some more record songs. Here they come, here they come. Gonna play you a different song. Okay. This is Colleen Green. Colleen Green. I wanna grow up. Cute. Cute. Okay. Coming back. You're committed. You need to hear the fucking ending. Good. Me too, Eric. Honestly, like, I know it, but I read this book once. Oh, you know, like chapter and chapter and chapter and chapter. Anyway, but I never did all. I think it was like 3 days, 2 or 3 days. I don't remember now, but okay. Okay. There was no way to cope with it. I stood up and gathered my luggage. It was important. I felt to get out of town immediately. My attorney seemed to finally grasp this. Wait! Wait! He shouted. You can't leave me alone like this in the snake pit. This room is in my name. Oh, okay, I gotta take another. Here you go. I shrugged. Okay, goddammit. Okay, goddammit. Moving toward the phone. Look, I'll call her. I'll get her off all backs. You're right. She's my problem. No, it's gone too far. You make a piss poor lawyer. Relax. I'll handle this. He dialed the Americana and asked for 1600. Hi, Lucy. Yeah, it's me. I got your message. What? Hell no. I taught that bastard a lesson he'll never forget. What? No, not dead, but he won't be bothering anybody for a while. Yeah, I left him out there. I stomped him. Pulled all his teeth out. Jesus, I thought, what a terrible thing to lay on somebody with a head full of acid. But here's the problem. I have to leave here right away. That bastard cashed a bad check downstairs and gave you as a reference. So they'll be looking for both of us. They'll be looking for both of you. Yeah, I know. But you can't judge a book by its cover. Lucy, some people are just basically rotten. Anyway. Last thing in the world you want to do is call this hotel again. They'll trace the call and put you straight behind bars. No. I'm moving to the Tropicana right away. I'll call you from there, and I know my room number. You're probably 2 hours. I have to act casual, or they'll capture me too. I think I'll probably use a different name, but I'll let you know what it is. Sure, just as soon as I check in. What? Of course. We'll go to the Circus, catch the polar bear act. It'll freak you right out. He was nervously shifting the phone from ear to ear while he talked. No. Listen, I have to get off. They'll probably have the phone tapped. Yeah, I know. It was horrible, but it's all over now. Oh my God, they're kicking the door down. He hurled the phone down and began shouting, No! Get away from me! I'm innocent! It was Duke! I swear to God! He kicked the phone against the wall, then leaned down to it and began yelling, No! I don't know where she is. I think she went back to Montana. You'll never catch Lucy. She's gone. He kicked the receiver again, then picked it up and held it about a foot away from the mouth as he uttered a long, quavering groan of, No! No! Don't put that thing on me! He screamed. Then he slammed the phone down. Well? He said quietly. That's that. She's probably stuffing herself down the incinerator now. He smiled. Yeah, I think that's the last we'll be hearing of Lucy. I slumped on the bed. His performance had given me a bad jolt. For a moment, I thought his mind had snapped. That he actually believed he was being attacked by invisible enemies. But the room was quiet again. He was back in his chair watching Mission Impossible and fumbling idly with his hash pipe. It was empty. Where's that opium? He asked. I tossed him the kit bag. Be careful, I muttered. There's not much left. They chuckled. As your attorney, I advise you not to worry. He nodded toward the bathroom. Take a hit out of the little brown bottle of my shaving kit. What is it? Adrenochrome. You won't need much. Just a little
tiny taste.
A bottle that dipped the head of paper. I got the bottle and dipped the head of a paper match into it.
That's about right. That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer. You'll be completely crazy if you take too much.
I like the end of the match. Where'd you get this? You can't buy it.
Never mind. It's absolutely pure.
I shook my head sadly. Jesus, what kind of monster client have you picked up this time? There's only one source for this stuff. He nodded. Here's a little drawing. It looks like Hunter, like, leaning on him. As your attorney, I advise you to slow down. I can't keep up, man. There you go. There's him and Hunter. Alright, yeah, I love this part too. The adrenochrome. Okay. This is the adrenaline glands from a living human body, I said. It's no good if you get it out of the corpse. I know. The adrenaline glands of a living human body. It's no good if you get it out of the corpse. I know. But the guy didn't have any cash. He's one of those Satanism freaks. He offered me human blood, said it would make me higher than I'd ever been in my life. I thought he was kidding, so I told him I'd just as soon as I'd have an ounce or so of pure adrenochrome. Or maybe just fresh adrenaline gland to chew on. I could already feel the stuff working on me. The first wave felt like a combination of mescaline and methadone. Maybe I should take a swim, I thought. Yeah, they nailed the guy for child molesting, but he swears he didn't do it. Why should I fuck with children? They're too small. Christ, what could I say? Even a goddamn werewolf is entitled to legal counsel. I don't dare turn the creep down. He might have picked up a letter opener and gone after my pineal gland. Why not? He could probably get the Melvin Belly for that. I nodded, barely able to talk now. My body felt like I'd just been wired to a 220-volt socket. Shit. We should get us some of this stuff. Just like getting a big handful and see what happens.
Some of what?
Extract of pineal. He stared at me. Sure, that's a good idea. One whiff of that shit will turn you into something out of goddamn medical encyclopedia. Man, your head will swell up like a watermelon. You'll probably gain about 100 pounds or two. Claws, bleeding warts, and you'll notice about 6 huge hairy tits swelling up on your back. He shook his head empathetically. Man, I'll try just about anything, but I never in hell would touch a pineal gland. Last Christmas, somebody gave me a whole Jimson weed. The root must have weighed about 2 pounds, enough for a year. But I ate the whole goddamn thing in about 20 minutes. I was leaning toward him, following the words intensely. The slightest hesitation had me want to grab him by his throat and force him to talk faster. Right? I said eagerly. Jimson weed, what happened? Okay, that was him. Luckily, I vomited most of it right back up. But even so, I went blind for 3 days. Christ, I couldn't even walk. My whole body turned to wax. I was a mess that they had to haul me back into the ranch house for a wheelbarrow. They said I was trying to talk, but I sounded like a raccoon. Fantastic. But I could barely hear him. I was so wired that my hands were clawing uncontrollably at the bedspread, jerking it right out from under where he talked. My heels were dug into the mattress with both knees locked. I could feel my eyeballs swelling at the pop out of the sockets. Finish the fucking story, I snarled. What happened? What about the glands? He backed away, keeping an eye on me as he edged across the room. Maybe you need another drink, he said nervously. Jesus, that stuff got right on top of you, didn't it? I tried to smile. Well, nothing worse? No, this is worse. It was hard not to move my jaws. My tongue felt like burning magnesium. No? Nothing to worry about. Maybe if you could just shove me into the pool or something. God damn it, you took too much. You're about to explode, Jesus, look at your face. I couldn't move, total paralysis now. Every muscle in my body was contracted. I couldn't even move my eyeballs, less turn my head or talk. It won't last long. The first rush is the worst. Just ride the bastard out. If I put you in the pool right now, you'll just sink like a goddamn stone. Death. I was sure of it. Not even my lungs seemed to be functioning. I needed artificial respiration, but I couldn't open my mouth to say so. I was going to die, just sitting there on the bed, unable to move. Well, at least there was no pain. Probably I'll black out in a few seconds, and after that, it won't matter. My attorney had gone back to watching television. The news was on again. Nixon's face filled the screen. but his speech was hopelessly garbled. The only one I could make out was sacrifice, 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 sacrifice. I could hear myself breathing heavily. My attorney seemed to notice. Just stay relaxed, he said over my shoulder without looking at me. Don't try to fight it, or you'll start getting brain bubbles, strokes, aneurysms. You'll just wither up and die. His hand snaked out to change the channels. It was after midnight when I finally was able to talk and move around, but I was still not free of this drug. This voltage had merely been cranked down from 220 to 110, and I was babbling nervous wreck, flapping around the room like a wild animal, pouring sweat and unable to concentrate on any one thought for more than 2 or 3 seconds at a time. My attorney put down the phone after making several calls. There's only one place where we can get fresh salmon, he said, and it's closed on Sunday. Of course, I snapped. These goddamn Jesus freaks, they're multiplying like rats. He eyed me with curiosity. What about the process, I said. They don't have a place here. Maybe a delicatessen or something, with a few tables in back. They have a fantastic menu in London. I ate there once. Incredible food.
Get a grip on yourself. You don't want to even mention the process in this town.
You're right. Call Inspector Bloor. He knows about the food. I think he has a list.
Better to call room service. We can get the Crab Louis and a quart of Christian Brothers Muscatel for about $20.
No! We must get out of this place. I need air. Let's drive up to Reno and get a big tuna fish salad. Hell, it won't take long. About 400 miles, no traffic out there in this desert.
Forget it. That's Army territory, bomb test, nerve gas. We'll never make it.
We wound up at the place called the Big Flip about halfway downtown. I had a New York steak for $1.88. My attorney ordered a Coyote Blush basket for $2.09. After that, we drank off a pot of watery Golden West coffee and watched 4 boozed-up cowboys types kick a faggot half-death between the pinball machines. The action never stops in this town, said my attorney as we shoveled out the car. A man with the right context would probably pick up the fresh adrenochrome he wanted if he hung out here for a while. I agreed, but it was quite up to it. Right then, I hadn't slept for something like 80 hours, and that fearful ordeal with the drug had left me completely exhausted. Tomorrow, we would have to get serious. The drug conference was scheduled to kick off at noon, and we were still not sure how to handle it. So we drove back to the hotel and watched a British horror film on The Late Show. Hey, so who's watching still? Eric and Renee? Oh, just one now. Eric? It's Eric. Ooh! Lost the homies. Okay. Getting down to business. Opening day at the drug convention. There you go. Part 2, Chapter 6. Here we go. Not much left. And then this is how much I read. That's a lot. This versus that. I could do it. Oh, Jaren? It's Jaren. Jaren is the last one. Alright. On behalf of the prosecuting attorneys of this county, I welcome you. We sat in the rear fridge of a crowd about 1,500 the main ballroom of the Dunes Hotel from far up front of the room, barely visible from the rear. The executive director of the National District Attorneys Association. Oh, Eric, you're still there? Okay, cool. Yeah. Eric and Jaren. A middle-aged, well-groomed, successful GOP businessman named Patrick Healy was opening their 3rd annual Institute on Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. His remarks reached us by way of a big, low-fidelity speaker mounted on the steel pole in our counter. Perhaps a dozen others were spotted around the room, all facing the rear and looming over the crowd. So no matter where you sat, or even tried to hide, you were always looking down the muzzle of a big speaker. This produced an odd effect. People in each section of the ballroom tended to stare at the nearest voice box instead of watching the distant figure of whoever was actually talking far up front on the podium. This 1935-style speaker placement totally depersonalized the room. There was something ominous about the auditorium about it. Whoever set up that sound system was probably some kind of sheriff's auxiliary technician on the leave from the drive-in theater at Muskogee, Oklahoma, where the management couldn't afford individual car speakers and relied on 10 huge horns mounted on telephone poles in the parking area. A year or so, I had been to the Sky River Rock Festival in rural Washington, where a dozen stone-broke freaks from Seattle Liberation Front had assembled a sound system that carried every small note of the acoustic guitar, even a cough or the sound of a boot dropping on the stage to half-deaf acid victims huddled under bushes a half mile away. Ugh. But the best technicians available from the National DA's convention in Vegas apparently couldn't handle it. Their sound system looked like something Ulysses S. Grant might have triggered to address his troops during the siege of Vicksburg. The voices from up front crackled with a fuzzy, high-pitched urgency, and the delay was just enough to keep the words disconcertingly out of phase with the speaker's gestures. We must come to terms with this drug culture in this country. Country. These echoes drifted back to the rear in confused waves. This reefer butt is called a roach because it resembles a cockroach. Cockroach. What the fuck are these people talking about? My attorney whispered. You have to be crazy on acid to think a joint looked like a goddamn cockroach. I shrugged. It was clear that we stumbled into a prehistoric gathering. The voice of a drug expert named Bloomquist crackled out of the nearby speakers about these flashbacks. The patient never knows. He thinks it's all over, and he gets himself straightened out for 6 months. And then, darn it, the whole trip comes back on him. Gosh darn this fiendish LSD. Dr. E.R. Bloomquist, M.D., was a keynote speaker, one of the biggest stars of the conference. He was an author of the paper book entitled Marijuana, which, according to the cover, tells it like it is. And he's also the inventor of the roach-cockroach theory. According to the book jacket, he's an associate clinical professor of surgery, anesthesiology, at the University of Southern California School of Medicine, and also a well-known authority on the abuse of dangerous drugs. Dr. Bloomquist has appeared on national network televisions panels and has served as a consultant for government agencies. Was a member of the Committee of the Narcotics, Addiction, and Alcoholism of the Council on the Mental Health and the American Medical Association. His wisdom is massively reprinted and distributed, says the publisher. He is clearly one of the heavies on that circuit of second-rate academic hustlers who get paid anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a hit for lecturing the cop crowds. Dr. Bloomquist's book was a compendium of state bullshit. On page 49, he explains the 4 states of being in the cannabis society: cool, groovy, hip, and square. In that descending order, the square is seldom, if ever, cool, says Bloomquist. He is not with it. That is, he doesn't know what's happening. But if he manages to figure it out, he moves up a notch to hip. And if he can bring himself to approve what's happening, he becomes groovy. And after that, with much luck and perseverance, he can rise to the rank of cool. Bloomquist writes like somebody who once bearded Tim Leary in a campus cocktail lounge and paid for all the drinks. It was probably somebody like Leary who told him with a straight face that sunglasses are known in the drug culture as T-shades. This is the kind of dangerous gibberish that used to be posted in form of mimeographed bulletins and police department locker rooms. Okay. Indeed. No, you're dope fiend. Your life may depend on it. You will not be able to see his eyes because of his T-shades, and his knuckles will be white from inattention, and his pants will be crusted with semen from constantly jacking off. When he can't find a rape victim, he will stagger and babble when questioned. He will not respect your badge. The dope fiend fears nothing. He will attack you for no reason with every weapon in his command, including yours. Beware! Any officer apprehending a suspected marijuana addict should use all necessary force immediately. 1 stitch in time on him will usually save 9 on you. Good luck, the chief. Indeed, luck is always important, especially in Las Vegas, and ours was getting worse. It was clear at a glance that this drug conference was not what we'd planned on. It was far too open, too mixed, and a third of the crowd looked like they'd just stopped by for the show en route to Franzir Ali, rematch at the Vegas Convention Center across town, or maybe a benefit about for the old smack dealers between Liston and Marshall Kai. The room fairly bristled with beards, mustaches, and superior mod dresses. The DA's conference had obviously drawn a godly contingent of undercover narcs and other twilight types. An assistant DA from Chicago wore a light tan sleeveless knit suit. His lady was the star of the Dunes Casino. She flashed through the place like a Grace Slick at a Finch College class reunion. We're a classic cobblestone swingers. Just because you're a cop these days doesn't mean you can't be with it. And this conference attracted some real peacocks. But my own costume, $40, FBI wingtips, and a Pat Boone Madras sports coat was just right for the mass median. Because over every urban hipster, there were about 20 crude-looking rednecks who could have passed as assistant football coaches in Mississippi State. These were the people who made my attorney nervous. Like most Californians, he was shocked to actually see these people from the outback. Here was the cop cream from the middle America. And Jesus, they looked and talked like a gang of drunken pig farmers. I tried to console him. They're actually nice people, I said. Once you get to know them, he smiled. No, are you kidding, man? I know these people in my goddamn blood. Don't mention that word around here, I said. You'll get them excited. You're right. I know these bastards in Easy Rider, but I don't believe they were real. Not like this. Not hundreds of them. My attorney was wearing a double-breasted blue pinstripe suit, a far more stylish outfit than my own. But it made him extremely nervous. Because of the stylishly dressed in this crowd meant that you were probably an undercover cop. And my attorney makes his living with people who are very sensitive to that area. This is a fucking nightmare. Here I am, infiltrating a goddamn pig conference. But sure as hell, there's some dope-dealing bomb freak in this town who's going to recognize me and put the word out. And that I'm out here partying with 1,000 cops. Well, we all wore name tags, and it came with a $100 registration fee. Mine said I was a private investigator from Los Angeles, which was true, in a sense. And my attorney's name tag identified him as a criminal expert in criminal drug analysis, which was also true, in a sense. But nobody seemed to care who was what, or why. Security was too loose for that kind of gritty paranoia. But we were also a bit tense because we'd given the register a bad check, and for our dual registration fee, it was a check from one of my attorney's pimp drug underlord clients that he assumed from long experience was absolutely worthless. Alright. Part 2, Chapter 7. If you don't know, come to learn. If you know, come to teach. Almost done with this book, you guys. I hope you like it. Let me put a little pause here. I gotta flip the record. It's on this cool, like, loop skip, though. Like, they put a spot in the record that skips automatically. So like I could let it play and it's this nice loop. It's rad. But anyway, let me switch it. Alright, let me get some more incense. How's everybody doing? All three of you. Rebecca Ann. Hello. Okay, sparking up a little Palo Santo. Looks like a little roach, but it's not, I assure you. Go ahead and drug test me, bro. Trying to get my job back. Spark it up. There we go. Timothy, was Tim Leary on Nice Dreams, Jaren? I didn't know that. I gotta find it again. I don't have all the Cheech and Chong movies. I need them. I have Up in Smoke. And do I have Nice Dreams or do I have Next Movie? I don't even know. They should make a box set. Duh. Blu-ray box set. I don't think they've ever been on Blu-ray, honestly. Maybe they have. If they have, I don't have them. Alright, there you go. There's the Palo Santo. Very good, very good. Look at that. Fucking burning orange and shit. Nice piece of wood. Alright. He's the insane asylum doctor. Oh shit, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's rad. That is rad. I gotta find which Cheech and Chong movies I have. Who produced them? Lou Adler or something? Okay, here's a little incense sticky too. Spark it up, spark it up, spark it up, Jamaica. Jamaica, Wagwan Jamaica.
Smokies. Get some Smokies here and some Smokies here. Come on. Okay. Back in action. Here we go. Almost done. Alright. Motto on invitations to National DA Convention in Vegas, April 25th to 29th, 1971. The first session, the opening remarks, lasted most of the afternoon. We sat patiently for the first 2 hours, although it was clear from the start that we weren't going to learn anything, and it was equally clear that we'd be crazy to try any teaching. It was easy enough to sit there with a head full of mescaline and to listen to an hour after hour of irreverent gibberish. There was certainly no risk involved. These poor bastards didn't know mescaline from macaroni. I suspect that we could have done the whole thing on acid, except for some of the people there were faces and bodies in that group who would have been absolutely unendurable on acid. The sight of a 344-pound police chief from Waco, Texas, necking openly with a 290-pound wife, or whatever woman he had with him, when the lights were turned off for a dope film was just barely tolerable on mescaline, which is mainly a sensual surface drug that exaggerates reality instead of altering it. With a head full of acid, and the sight of two fantastically obese human beings far gone in a public grove, while 1,000 cops all around just watched at a movie about the dangers of marijuana would not be emotionally acceptable. The brain would reject it. The medulla would attempt to close it off from itself and the signals it was getting from the frontal lobe. And the middle brain, meanwhile, would be trying desperately to put different interpretation on the scene before pressing it back to the medulla and the risk of physical addiction. Acid is a relatively complex drug, and its effects, while mescaline is pretty simple and straightforward, but in a scene like this, the difference was academic. There was simply no call at this conference for anything but a massive consumption of downers, reds, grass, and booze. There we go. Okay. I got lost. Reds, grass, and booze. No, okay. Reds, grass, and booze, because the whole program had apparently been set up by people who had been in the sectional stupor since 1964. Sorry, I'm getting a little sleepy. Here were more than 1,000 top-level cops telling each other we must come to terms with the drug culture, but they had no idea where to start. They couldn't even find the goddamn thing. There were more rumors in the hallways than maybe the Mafia had behind it, or perhaps the Beatles at one point someday in the audience asked Bloomquist if he thought the Margaret Mead's strange behavior of late might possibly be explained by private marijuana addiction. I really don't know, Bloomquist replied, but at her age, she did smoke grass, and she did have a hell of a trip. The audience roared with laughter at this remark. Okay. My attorney leaned over to whisper that he was leaving. I'll be down in the casino. I'll be down in the casino. I know a hell of a lot better ways to waste my time than listening to this bullshit. He stood up, knocking his ashtray off the arm of his chair, and plunged down the aisle toward the door. The seats were not arranged for random movement. People tried to make a path for him, but there was no room for him to move. Watch yourself, somebody shouted, bullied on him. Fuck you! Down in front! My eye was almost at the door. I have to get out. I don't belong here. Good riddance, said a voice. He paused, looking around, and he seemed to think better of it. He kept moving by the time he got to the exit. The whole rear of the room was in turmoil. Even Bloomquist, far up from the stage, seemed aware of the distant trouble he'd stopped taking and peered nervously in the direction of the noise. Probably he thought a brawl had erupted. Maybe a racial conflict of some kind. Something that couldn't be helped. I stood up and plunged to the door. It seemed like it was a good time as any to flee. Pardon me, I feel sick, I said my first legs as I stepped in. I jerked it back, and I said it again. Sorry. I'm about to be sick. Sorry, sick. Beg your pardon. Feeling sick. This time, a path opened up very nicely. Not a word of protest. Hands actually helping me along. They feared I was about to vomit, and nobody wanted it. At least not on them. I made it to the door in about 45 seconds.
My attorney was downstairs at the bar talking to a sporty-looking cop about 40 whose plastic name tag said he was in the DA from someplace in Georgia. I'm a whiskey man myself, he was saying. Why don't we don't have much problem with drugs down where I'm from. You will. One of these nights you'll wake up and find a junkie tearing your bedroom apart. Nah, not down in my parts. I joined them and ordered a tall glass of rum with ice. You another one of them California boys, he said. Your friend here's been telling me all about dope fiends. They're everywhere. Oh, they're everywhere. Nobody's safe. And sure as hell not in the South. They like the warm weather. They work in pairs. Oh, they work in pairs. Sometimes in gangs. They'll climb right into your bedroom and sit on your chest with big Bowie knives. Suddenly. They might even sit on your wife's chest. Put the blade right down on her throat. Jesus, God almighty. Well, that's, what the hell's going on in this country? You'd never believe it. In LA, it's out of control. First it was drugs, now it's witchcraft. Witchcraft? Shit, you can't mean it. Read the newspapers. Man, you don't know through, no trouble until you have a face down a bunch of these addicts gone crazy for human sacrifice. I believe that shit. Nah, that's science fiction stuff. Not where we operate. Hell, in Malibu alone, these goddamn Satan worshippers kill 6 or 8 people every day. He paused to take a sip of his drink. And all they want to do, all they want is the blood. They take the people right off the street if they have to. You know, hell yes, just another day we had a case where they grabbed a girl right off the McDonald's hamburger stand. She was a waitress, about 16 years old. With a lot of people watching, too. What happened? Well, what did they do to her? She seemed very agitated by what she was hearing. Dude. Jesus Christ, man, they chopped the goddamn head off right in the parking lot. Then they cut all kinds of holes in it and sucked on her blood. God almighty. And nobody did anything? What could they do? The guy that took the head off was about 6, 7, and maybe 300 pounds. He was packing 2 Lugers and the others had M16s. They were all veterans. The big guy used to be a major with the Marines. We know where he lives, but we can't get near the house. Nah, not a major. He wanted the pineal gland. That's how they got so big. When he quit with the Marines, he was just a little guy. Oh my God, that's horrible. It happens every day. Usually it's whole families. During the night, most of them don't even wake up until they feel their heads going, and then and then of course it's too late. The bartender had stopped to listen. He'd been watching him. His expression was not calm. 3 more rums with plenty of ice and maybe a handful of lime chunks. He nodded, but I could see that his mind was not on his work. He was staring at our name tags. Are you guys with the police convention upstairs? We sure are, my friend. Oh, we sure are, my friend, said the Georgian man with a big smile. The bartender shook his head and thought, I thought so. I never heard that kind of talk at our bar before. Jesus Christ, how do you guys stand that kind of work? We like it. It's groovy. The bartender drew back his face in a mask of repugnance. What's wrong with you? I said. Oh, somebody has to do it. He stared at me for a moment and then turned away. Hurry up with those drinks, said my attorney. We're thirsty. He laughed and rolled his eyes at the bartender, glanced back at him. Only 2 rums. Make mine a Bloody Mary. The bartender seemed to stiffen, but our Georgia friend didn't notice. His mind was somewhere else. Hell, I really hate to hear this, he said quietly, but because everything that happens in California seems to get down our way sooner or later, mostly Atlanta. But I guess that was back when the goddamn bastards were peaceful. It used to be like that. All we had to do was keep them under surveillance. They didn't roam around much, but now, Jesus, nobody's safe. They could turn up anywhere. You're right. We learned that in California. You remember where Manson turned up, don't you? Right out in the middle of Death Valley. He had a whole army of sex fiends out there. We only got our hands on a few. Most of the crew got away, just ran across the sand dunes like big lizards. And every one of them stark naked except for the weapons. They'll turn up somewhere pretty soon. Let's all hope they get ready for him. The Georgia man whacked his fist on the bar. But we can't just lock ourselves in the houses and be prisoners, he exclaimed. We don't know who these people are. How do you recognize them? You can't. The only way to do it is to take the bull by the horns. Go to the mat with the scum. What do you mean by that?
You know what I mean. We've done it before. And we damn well could do it again. Cut their goddamn heads off.
Every one of them. That's what they're doing in California.
What? Sure. It's all about the QT. But everybody who matters is what, with all of us, all the way down the line.
God, I had no idea it was that bad out there. We keep it quiet. It's not the kind of thing you'd want to talk about upstairs, for instance. Not with the press around. Our man agreed. Hell no. We'd never hear the goddamn end of it. Dobermans don't talk.
What?
Sometimes it's easier just to rip out the back straps.
They'll fight like hell if you try to take the head without dogs.
God almighty. Will left at the bar, swirling his ice drink and not smiling. He was worried about whether or not he'll tell his wife about it. She'll never understand. You know how women are. I nodded. My attorney was already gone, scurrying around through a maze of slot machines toward the front door. I said goodbye to our friend, warning him not to say anything about what we told him. Okay. Part 2, Chapter 8. Almost done. Backdoor beauty and finally a bit of serious drug racing at the strip. Take a little sip here. Again, reading Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in its entirety. Okay. Sometime around midnight, my attorney wanted coffee. He had been vomiting fairly regularly, and we drove around the strip. The right flank of the whale was badly streaked. We were idling at a spotlight in front of the Silver Slipper behind a big blue Ford with Oklahoma plates. Two hoggish-looking couples in that car, probably cops from Muskogee, using the drug conference to give their wives a look at Vegas. They looked like they'd beaten Caesar's Palace for almost $33 at blackjack tables, and now they were headed for the Circus to whoop it up. But suddenly, they found themselves next to a white Cadillac convertible all covered with vomit and a 300-pound Samoan in a yellow fishnet t-shirt yelling at them.
Hey there! You folks want to buy some heroin?
No reply. No sign of recognition. They'd been warned about this kind of crap. Just ignore it.
Hey, honkies! God damn it, I'm serious! I want to sell you some pure fucking snack!
He was leaning out of the car, very close to them, but still, nobody answered. I glanced over very briefly and saw four middle-aged American frozen faces frozen with shock, staring straight ahead. They were in the middle lane. A quick left turn would be illegal. We would have to go straight ahead when the light changed, then escape at the next corner. I waited, tapping the accelerator nervously. My attorney was losing control.
Cheap heroin, cheap!
And he was shouting,
"This is the real stuff. You won't get hooked. God damn it, I know what I have here."
He whacked on the side of the car, as if to get their attention. But they wanted no part of us.
You folks never talked to a vet before?
Said my attorney.
I just got back from Vietnam. This is skag, folks. Pure skag.
Suddenly the light changed and the Ford bolted off like a rocket. I stomped on the accelerator and stayed right next to them for about 200 yards, watching for cops in the mirror while my attorney kept screaming at them, "Shoot! Fuck! Skag! Blood! Heroin! Rape! Cheap! Communist! Jab it right up your fucking eyeballs!" We were approaching the Circus at high speed, and the Oklahoma car was veering left, trying to muscle to the turn lane. I stopped the whale into passing gear, and we ran fender to fender for a moment. He was up to hitting me. There was horror in his eyes. The man in the back seat lost control of himself, lunging across, and his wife snarling wildly,
"You dirty bastards! Pull over and I'll kill you, goddamn you! You bastards!"
He seemed ready to leap out of the window and into our car, crazy with rage. Luckily, the Ford was a two-door. He couldn't get out. We were coming up to the next spotlight for the Ford and was still trying to move left. We were both running full bore. I glanced over to the shoulder and I saw that he'd left the other traffic far behind. There was a big opening to the right, so I mashed on the brake and hurling my attorney against the dashboard. In an instant, the Ford surged ahead and I cut across his tail and zoomed into the side street. A sharp right turn across 3 lanes of traffic, but it worked. We felt the Ford stalled in the middle of the intersection. Hung in the middle of a screeching left turn. With a little luck, he'll be arrested for reckless driving. My attorney was laughing as we crescented a low gear, with the lights out, through a dusty tangle of back streets behind the Desert Inn.
Jesus Christ, these Okies were getting excited. That guy in the backseat was trying to bite me. Shit, he was frothing at the mouth.
He said, so he nodded solemnly.
I should have maced the fucker. A criminal psychotic. Total breakdown. You never know when they're likely to explode.
I swung the whale into a turn that seemed to lead out of the maze, but instead of skidding, the bastard almost rolled.
Holy shit! Turn on the fucking lights.
He was clinging to the top of the windshield, and suddenly he was doing a big spit again, leaning over the side. I refused to slow down. I was sure nobody was following us, especially the Oklahoma Ford. Those people were definitely dangerous, at least until they calmed down. Would they report the terrible quick encounter to the police? Probably not. It had happened too fast. With no witness, and the odds were pretty good that nobody would believe them anyway, the idea that two heroin pushers in a white Cadillac convertible would be dragging up and down the strip, abusing total strangers at stoplights, was prima facie absurd? What is that word? Not even Sonny Liston ever got that far out of control. We made another turn and almost rolled again. The Coupe de Ville was not your ideal machine for high-speed cornering in residential neighborhoods. The handling is very mushy, unlike the Red Shark, which had responded very nicely at situations requiring the quick four-wheel drift. But while, instead of cutting loose, the critical moment had a tendency to dig in, which accounted for that sickening "here we go again" sensation. At first, it was only because the tires were soft. So I took it to Texaco station next to Flamingo and had the tires pumped up to 50 pounds each, which alarmed the attendant until I explained that these were experimental tires. But 50 pounds each didn't help the cornering. So I went back a few hours later and told him I wanted to try 70. 75. He shook his head nervously. Not me, he said, rumbling in the air, rumbling to me at the air hose. Here, they're your tires. You do it. What's wrong? I said. You think they can't take 75? He's popping his tires real big. Give me a second. I gotta put on a new record. I keep losing my fucking... Okay, my bookmarks here. Here we go. They're just cards. Almost done. But we're having fun. Put on a new record. Like my song? That called Golden Triangle from New York. Okay. Back in action, back in action. Back in action. Sound like Adam Sandler and Fatty McGee. Who Fatty McGee though? I know who that is. I was just singing a little song, man. You know, I did. I was just singing a little song, dude. Okay, let me light this, spark this up, spark this up. We're almost done. Almost done. There we go. This fucking fireball is gonna hit the fucking earth. Okay. Back. He nodded. Oh, the tires. Okay. He nodded, moving away, and I stopped to deal with the left front. You're damn right, he said. Those tires want 28 in the front and 32 in the rear. Hell, 50's dangerous, but 75's crazy. They'll explode. I shook my head and kept filling the left front. I told you, I said. Sandow's Laboratories designed these tires. They're special. I could load them up to 100. God almighty, don't do that here. Not today, I replied. I want to see how they corner with 75. He chuckled. You don't even get that to the corner, mister. We'll see, I said, moving around to the rear of the air hose. In truth, I was nervous. The two front tires were tighter than snare drums. They felt like teak wood when I tapped on them with a rod. But what the hell, I thought. If they explode, so what? It's not often that a man gets a chance to run Terminator experiments on Virgin Cadillac in 4 branded new $80 tires. For all I knew, the thing might start cornering like a Lotus Elan. If not, I'll have to do what's called a VIP agency and have another one delivered. Maybe threaten them with a lawsuit because all 4 tires exploded on me while driving in heavy traffic. Demand an Eldorado next time with 4 Michelin X's and put it all on one card. Charge it to the St. Louis Browns. As it turned out, the whale behaved very nicely with the altered tire pressures. The ride was trifle rough, but I could feel every pedal on the highway, like being on roller skates in a gravel pit. With the thing being cornering in a very stylish gravel pit. In a very stylish manner, excuse me. Very much like driving a motorcycle at top speed in hard rain. One slip and swang over the high side, cartwheeling across the landscape like your head in your hands. About 30 minutes after our brush with the Yokies, we pulled into an all-night diner at the Tonopah Highway, on the outskirts of mean scout ghetto called North Las Vegas, which is actually outside of the city limits of Vegas proper. North Vegas is where you go when you're fucked up once too often on the strip and when you're not even welcome in the cut-rate downtown places of the casino center. I love North Vegas. North Vegas is my favorite place of a strip club in Vegas. It's called Chicas Bonitas. North Vegas doesn't look like Vegas anymore. North Vegas looks like Lakeland Village or Hemet. I recommend North Vegas. Chicas Bonitas. Smoke a cig later, Jaren, later. It'll take me too long. I don't want to leave a break for that long. Okay. This is Nevada's answer to East St. Louis, a slum and a graveyard. Last stop before permanent exile to Eli or Winnemucca. North Vegas is where you go if you're a hooker turning 40 and the syndicate men on the strip decide you're no longer much good for business out there with the high rollers. Or if you're a pimp with bad credit in the sands. Or what do they call in Vegas? A hophead. This can mean almost anything from a mean drunk to a junkie. But in terms of commercial acceptability, it means you're finished in all the right places. The big hotels and casinos pay a lot of muscle to make sure the high rollers don't even momentarily hassle with undesirables. Security in a place like Caesar's Palace is super tense and strict. Probably a third of the people on the floor at any given time are either shills or watchdogs. Public drunks or known pickpockets are dealt with instantly. Hustled out to the parking lot by Secret Service type thugs and given a quick and personal lecture about the cost of dental work and the difficulties of trying to make a living with 2 broken arms. The high side of Vegas is probably the most closed society of West Sicily. And it makes no difference in terms of the day of the life of the place. Whether the man at the top is Lucky Luciano or Howard Hughes, in an economy where Tom Jones can make $75,000 a week for 2 shows a night at Caesars, this palace guard is indispensable. And they don't care who signs their paychecks. A gold mine like Vegas breeds its own army. Like any other gold mine, hired muscle tends to accumulate in fast layers around money or power poles and big money. In Vegas, it synonymizes with power to protect it.
So once you get blacklisted on the strip for any reason at all, you either get out of town or retire to nurse your act along with the cheap. Nurse your act along on the cheap in the suddenly limbo of North Vegas. Out there with the gun souls and the hustlers, the drug cripples, and all the other losers, North Vegas, for instance, is where you go if you need to score smack before midnight, with no references. Yeah, Chicas Bonitas, North Vegas. But if you're looking for cocaine and you're ready up front with some bills and the proper code words, you want to stay on the strip and get next to a well-connected hooker, which will take at least one bill for starters. And so much for that. We didn't fit the mold. There is no formula for finding yourself in Vegas, with a white Cadillac full of drugs and nothing to mix with properly. The Fillmore style never quite caught up here. People like Sinatra and Dean Martin are still considered far out in Vegas. The underground newspaper here, the Las Vegas Free Press, is a cautious echo of People's World, or maybe a national guardian. A week in Vegas is like stumbling into a time warp, a regression into the late 50s, which is wholly understandable when you see people who come here. The big spenders from places like Denver and Dallas, along with National Elks Club conventions. I won't say that word. Well, no niggers allowed. And all the West Volunteer Sheep Herders Rally. These are people who go absolutely crazy in the sight of an old hooker stripping down her pasties and prancing out on the runway like Big Seat around a dozen 50-year-old junkies kicking out the jams on September Sing. It was sometime around there that we pulled into the parking of the North Vegas Diner. I was looking for a copy of the Los Angeles Times for news for the outside world, but a quick glance at the newspaper racks made a bad joke of that notion. They didn't need the Times in North Vegas. No news is good news.
Fuck newspapers,
said my attorney. What we need right now is coffee. I agreed, but I stole a copy of the Vegas Sun anyway. It was yesterday's edition, but I didn't care. The idea of enforcing a coffee shop without a newspaper in my hands made me nervous. There was always a sports section. Get wired on the baseball scores and pro football rumors. Bart Starr beaten by thugs at Chicago Town Tavern. Hackers seek trade. Namath quits Jets to be governor of Alabama. And a speculative piece on page 46 about a rookie sensation named Harrison Fire out of Grambling runs the 109 flat, 344 pounds, and still growing. This man's fire has definite promise, says the coach. Yesterday, before practice, he destroyed a Greyhound bus with his bare hands, and last night he killed a subway. He's a natural for color TV. I'm not one to play favorites, but it looks like he'll have to make room for him. Indeed, there is always room on TV for a man who can beat people to jelly in 9 flat. But not many of these were gathered on the night of the North Star Coffee Lounge. We had the place to ourselves, which proved to be fortunate because we'd eaten 2 more pellets of mescaline on the way over, and the effects were beginning to manifest. My attorney was no longer vomiting or even acting sick. He ordered coffee with the authority of a man accustomed to quick service. The waitress had the appearance of a very old hooker who had finally found her place in life. She was definitely in charge here, and she eyed us with obvious disapproval as we settled into our stools. North Star Coffee Lounge. I wasn't paying much attention. The North Star Coffee Lounge seemed like a fairly safe haven from our storms. There are some you go into in this line of work that you know will be heavy. The details don't matter. All you know for sure is that your brain starts humming with brutal vibes. As you approach the front door, something wild and evil is about to happen, and yet it's going to involve you. But there is nothing in the atmosphere of this North Star to put me in my guard. The waitress was passively hostile, but I was accustomed to that. She was a big woman, not fat, but large in every way. Not sinewy arms and a brawler's jawbone. A burnt-out caricature of Jane Russell. Big head of dark hair, face slashed with lipstick, and a 48 double E chest that was probably spectacular about 20 years ago. When she might have been a mama for a Hell's Angels chapter in Purdue. But now she's strapped up against a giant pink elastic brassiere that showed the bondage through the sweaty white rayon of her uniform. Probably she was married to somebody, but I don't feel like speculating. All I wanted from her tonight was a cup of black coffee and a 29-cent hamburger with pickles and onions. No hassles, no talk, just a place to rest and regroup. I wasn't even hungry. My attorney had no newspaper or anything else to compel his attention. He was so focused out of boredom on the waitress. She was taking our orders like a robot when he punched through her crust with a demand for 2 glasses of ice water with ice. My attorney drank his on one gulp, and he asked for another. I noticed that the waitress seemed tense. Fuck it, I thought. I was reading the funnies. About 10 minutes later, when he brought the hamburger, I saw my attorney hand her a napkin with something printed on it. He did it very casually with no expression at all on his face, but I knew from the vibes that our piece was about to be shattered. What was that? I asked him. He shrugged, smiling vaguely at the waitress, who was standing about 10 feet away at the end of the counter, keeping her back to us while she pondered the napkin. Finally, she turned and stared, then stepped resolutely forward and tossed a napkin at my attorney.
What is this?
She snapped.
A napkin.
There was a moment of nasty silence when she began screaming.
Don't give me that bullshit. I know what that means, you goddamn fat pimp bastard.
My attorney picked up the napkin, looked at what he'd written, and then dropped it back on the counter.
That's the name of the horse I used to own.
What's wrong with you?
You son of a bitch. I'll take a lot of shit in this place, but I sure as hell don't have to take it from no spick pimp.
Jesus. What's happening? I was watching the woman's hands, hoping she wouldn't pick up anything sharp or heavy. I picked up the napkin and read what the bastard had printed on it in careful red letters. Back door beauty? With a question mark that was emphasized. The woman was screaming again.
Pay your bill and get the hell out. You don't want me to call the cops.
I reached for my wallet, but my attorney already on his feet, never taking his eyes off the woman. Then he reached under his shirt, not into his pocket, coming up suddenly with the Gerber Mini Magnum, a nasty silver blade which the waitress seemed to understand instantly. She froze, her eyes fixed widely on the blade. My attorney, still watching her, moved about 6 feet down the aisle and lifted the receiver off the hook of the payphone. He sliced it off, then brought the receiver back to his stool and sat down. The waitress didn't move. I was stupid with shock, not knowing whether to run or start laughing. How much is that lemon meringue pie?
How much is that lemon meringue pie?
My attorney asked. His voice was as casual as if he had wandered into the place and was debating what to order. 35 cents, the woman blurted. Her eyes were turgid with fear. Her brain was apparently functioning on some basic motor survival level. My attorney laughed.
I mean the whole pie.
She moaned. My attorney put a bill on the counter. Let's say it's $5, he said, okay? She nodded, still frozen, watching my attorney as he walked around the corner, got the pie out of the display case. I prepared to leave. The waitress was clearly in shock. The sight of the blade jerked out of the heat of an argument had apparently triggered bad memories. The glazed look in her eyes said her throat had been cut. She was still in the grip of paralysis when he left.
That's good.
I forget, it was that a deleted scene in the movie? That's not in the actual movie, because I know it was filmed. It's not in the movie, is it? Or is it deleted? I forget. For some reason, something pops in my head that it was deleted. Okay. Keep on trucking. Let's see, let me look at this. I can do it. Yeah, almost done. I got this much left. That's it. I'm on page 161. And the last page is 208. Yeah. Fuck it. Why not? If you're enjoying it, I am. I'm going to keep going. Okay. Part 2, Chapter 9, Breakdown on Paradise Boulevard. Okay. Editor's note. At this point in the chronology, Dr. Duke appears to have broken down completely. The original manuscript is so splintered that we were forced to seek the original tape recording and transcribe it in verbatim. We've made no attempt to edit this section, and Dr. Duke refused even to read it. There was no way to reach him. The only address contact we had during this period was a mobile phone unit somewhere on Highway 61, and all the efforts to reach the Duke and the number provide futile. In the interest of journalistic purity, we are publishing the following section as it just came off of the tape. One of many that Dr. Duke submitted for purposes of verification. Along with his manuscript, according to the tape, the section follows an episode involving Duke, his attorney, and a waitress at an all-night diner in North Vegas. The rationale for the following transaction appears to be based on a feeling, shared by both Duke and his attorney. that the American dream would have to be sought out somewhere far beyond the dreary confines of district attorneys, conference, and narcotics and dangerous drugs. The transaction begins somewhere in the northeast skirts of Las Vegas, zooming along Paradise Road in the White Whale. Okay, hold on. That is in the movie? That's all in the movie, right? Okay. For some reason, I thought it was like a deleted scene. I gotta watch that again. Let me switch my record. And the actress who played the waitress is Ellen Barkin? Ellen Barkin, I believe. So pretty back in the day. She was still pretty then, too. I'm sure she is now. Ellen Barkin, I believe. Okay. Attorney. Okay. Boulder City's to the right. Is that a town? Yeah. Let's go to Boulder City. All right. Let's get some coffee somewhere. Right up there, Terry's Taco Stand, USA. I could go for a taco. $5 for $1. Oh, this is the part that was not in the movie. Sounds horrible. I'd rather go somewhere where there's one for 50 cents. No, this might be the last chance to get tacos. I need some coffee. I want tacos. $5 for $1. That's like 5 hamburgers for $1. No, don't judge a taco by its price. You think you might make a deal? I might. There's a hamburger for 29 cents. Tacos for 29 cents. It's a cheap place, that's all. Go bargain with them. Hello? May I help you? Yeah. You have tacos here. Are they Mexican tacos or just regular tacos? I mean, do you have chili in them? And things like that? We have cheese and lettuce. And we have sauce, you know, put on them. I mean, do you guarantee that they're authentic Mexican tacos? I don't know. Hey, Lou. Do we have authentic Mexican tacos? What? Authentic Mexican tacos. We have tacos. We have tacos. I don't know how Mexican they are. Yeah, well, I just want to make sure I get what I'm paying for. Because they're $5 for $1. I'll take 5 of them. Taco burger, what's that? That's a hamburger with a taco in the middle. Instead of a shell? A taco on the bun? This is the best part of the book. I bet you your tacos are just like hamburgers with a shell instead of a bun. I don't know. You just started working here? Today. I thought so. I never saw you here before. You go to school around here? No, I don't go to school. Oh, why not? Are you sick? Never mind that. We came here for some tacos. As your attorney, I advise you to go get a chili burger. It's a hamburger with chili on it. That's too heavy for me. Then I advise you to get a taco burger. Try that one. The taco has meat in it. I'll try that one. And some coffee now. Right now. So I can drink it while I'm waiting. That's all you want? One taco burger? Well, I'll try it. I might want two. Are your eyes blue or green? Pardon? Blue or green? They change. Like a lizard? Like a cat. Oh. The lizard changes the color of its skin. Want anything to drink? Beer. I'll have a beer in the car. I have beer in the car, tons of it. The whole back seat's full of it. I don't like mixing coconuts up with beer and hamburgers. Well, let's smash the bastards. Right in the middle of the highway. There's Boulder City somewhere around here. Boulder City? Do you want sugar? Yeah. Where in Boulder City, huh? Or very close to it? I don't know. There it is. That sign says Boulder City, okay? Aren't you from Nevada? No, we've never been here before, just traveling through. You go straight up to the road here. Any action up there in Boulder City? Don't ask me, I don't. Any gambling there? I don't know. It's just a little town. Where's the casino? I don't know. Wait a minute. Where are you from? New York. And you just been here a day? No, I've been here for a while. Where do you go around here? Say you want to go swimming or something like that? In my backyard. What's the address? Go to, there's a pool. It's not open yet.
Let me explain it to you. Let me run it down just briefly if I can. We're looking for the American Dream, and we were told to be somewhere in this area. Well, we're here looking for it, because they sent us out here all the way from San Francisco to look for it. That's why they gave us this white Cadillac. They figured that we could catch up with it in that.
Hey, Lou, you know where the American Dream is?
She's asking the cook if she knows where the American Dream is.
5 tacos, 1 taco burger. Do you know where the American Dream is? What's that? What is that?
Well, we don't know. We were sent out of here from San Francisco to look for the American Dream to try buy a magazine to cover it.
Oh, you mean a place?
A place called the American Dream?
Is that the old psychiatrist club? I think so.
The old psychiatrist club?
Old psychiatrist club. It's on Paradise. Are you guys serious?
Oh, no. Honest. Look at that car. I mean, do I look like I'd own a car like that?
Could be that old psychiatrist club. It was a discotheque place.
Maybe that's it.
It's on Paradise on... And what? Ross Allen had the old psychiatrist club. Is he the owner now?
I don't know. All we were told was go till you find the American Dream. Take this white Cadillac and go find the American Dream. It's somewhere in Las Vegas area.
That has to be the old...
And it's a silly story to do, but you know, that's what we get paid for.
Are you taking pictures of it, or...
No pictures.
Or did somebody just send you on a goose chase?
It's sort of a wild goose chase, more or less, but personally we're dead serious.
That has to be the old psychiatrist club. But the only people who hang out there is a bunch of pushers, peddlers, uppers and downers, and all that stuff.
Maybe that's it. It's a nighttime place, or is it all day?
Oh, honey. This never stops. But it's not a casino.
What kind of place is it?
It's on Paradise. It's an old psychiatrist club on Paradise.
Is that what it's called? The old psychiatrist club?
No, that's what it used to be. But someone bought it. But I didn't hear about it as the American Dream. It was just something like associated with, it's a mental joint where all the dopers hang out.
A mental joint? You mean like a mental hospital?
No, honey, where all the dope peddlers and all the pushers, everybody hangs out. It's a place where all the kids are potted and they go in and everything. But it's not called what you said, the American Dream.
Do you have any idea what it might be called? Or more or less where it might be located?
Right off Paradise and Eastern. But Paradise and Eastern are parallel. Yeah, but I know. I come off the Eastern and then I go on to Paradise. Well, I know it, but then they would have to make it off Paradise around Flamingo straight up there. I think somebody's handed a UA.
We're staying at the Flamingo. I think this place you're talking about, and the way you're describing it, I think that maybe that's it.
It's not a tourist joint.
Well, that's why they sent me. He's a writer. I'm the bodyguard. Because I'll figure this will be...
These guys are nuts. These kids are nuts.
That's okay.
Yeah, they got new laws. 24-hour-a-day violence. Is that what we're saying?
Oh, wait, excuse me. That was Raul Duke. 24-hour-a-day violence. Is that what we're saying? There we go.
Exactly. Now here's the Flamingo. Oh, I can't show you this. I can tell you better my way. Right up here at the first gas station is Tropicana takes you right.
Tropicana to the right.
The first gas station is Tropicana. Take a right on Tropicana and take this way. Right on Tropicana, right on Paradise. You'll see a big black building. It's all painted black and real weird looking.
Right on Tropicana, right on Paradise, black building.
And there's a sign on the side of the building that says Psychiatrist Club, but they're completely remodeling it and everything.
Alright, that's close enough.
If there's anything I do for you, honey, I don't think it's even it, or if there's anything I could do for you, honey. I don't know if that's even it or not, but it sounds like it is. I think you boys are on the right track.
Right. That's the best lead we had in 2 days. We'd have been asking people all around.
I can make a couple of calls and sure as hell find out.
Could you?
Sure, I'll call Alan and ask him.
Gee, I'd appreciate that if you could.
When you go down to the Tropicana, it's the first gas station, the second. It's not the first gas station, the second. There's a big sign right down the street that says Tropicana Avenue. Make a right, and when you get to the Paradise, make another right.
Okay, big black building right on Paradise, 24-hour-a-day violence, drugs.
See, here's a Tropicana, and here's Boulder Highway clear down that road.
Well, it's pretty far down that road.
Here's the Paradise split up somewhere. Around there's Paradise. When you're down here, see, this is Boulder Highway and Tropicana. Well, that's not it. The bartender and there's a pothead, too.
Yeah, well, it's a lead.
You're gonna be glad you stopped here. You're gonna be glad you stopped here, boys.
Only if we find it. Only if we write the article and get it in.
Waitress. Oh, okay, waitress. Well, why don't you come inside and sit down?
We're trying to get as much as we can.
She's going to make a phone call and find out where it is.
Okay, well, let's go inside.
Editor's note. Tape cassettes for the next sequence were impossible to transcribe due to some vicious liquid encrusting behind the heads. There's a certain consistency in the garbled sounds, however, indicating that almost 2 hours later, Dr. Duke and his attorney finally located what was left of the old psychiatrist club. A huge slab of cracked, scorched concrete in a vacant lot full of tall weeds. The owner of a gas station across the road said the place had burned down about 3 years ago.
That's an interesting part of the book. Like that definitely wasn't in the movie, but they talk about how the editor's note or whatever was taken off of the fucking audio tapes because they were recording everything, and fucking. I think they found that place. It was like the people at the diner or whatever, the drive-thru or whatever, they were ordering tacos and Taco Burger from. Rad, by the way. They should have kept that shit in. But I think they found this place that was, what did they say? Covered in drug, crackheads, pushers, and pimps and stuff. You think about it. That totally sounds right up these two guys' alley. You know what I mean? They would have loved to have gone there. I think that explains why their tape got all fucked up. Because they probably found this place and fucking lost their minds out there. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe... Isn't the next scene in the movie where they're like in the hotel and it's like all fucking flooded and shit? And he's got the like lizard tail on his butt and stuff like that. And let's see what's next. Let's see what's next. Heavy duty at the airport. Ugly Peruvian flashback. No, it's too late. Don't try it. Part 2, Chapter 10. Okay. My attorney left at dawn. We almost missed the first flight to LA because I couldn't find the airport. It was less than 30 minutes from the hotel. I was sure of that. So we left the Flamingo at exactly 7:30, but for some reason we failed to make the turn off at the stoplight in front of the Tropicana. We kept going straight ahead on the freeway, which parallels the main airport runway, but on the opposite side of the terminal, and there is no way to get across legally. God damn it, we're lost, my attorney was shouting. What are we doing out here on the forsaken road? The airport is right over there, he pointed hysterically across the tundra. Oh, I forgot my voices. Don't worry, I said. I never missed a plane yet. I smiled as the memory came back. Except once in Peru, I added. I was already checked out of the country through customs when I went back to the bar and chat with this Bolivian cocaine dealer. And all of a sudden I heard those big 707 engines starting up. So I ran onto the runway and tried to get aboard. But the door was right behind the engines and they'd already rolled the ladder away. Shit. Those afterburners would have fried me like bacon. But I was completely out of my head. I was desperate to get aboard. The airport cops saw me coming, and they gathered into a knot at the gate. I was running like a bastard straight at them. The guy with me was screaming, "No, it's too late. No, don't try it." Another part not in the movie. I saw the cops waiting for me. I slowed down like maybe I'd changed my mind. But when I saw them realize that I did a quick change of pace and tried to run up right over to the bastards, I laughed. Jesus. It was like running full bore into a closet full of Gila monsters. These fuckers almost killed me. All I remember is seeing 5 or 6 billy clubs coming down on me at the same time and a lot of voices screaming, "No, no, it's suicide. Stop. You stop the crazy gringo." I woke up about 2 hours later at a bar in downtown Lima. They stretched me out of one of those half-moon leather booths. My luggage was all stacked beside me. No body had opened it. So when I went back to sleep and caught my first flight out the next morning, my attorney was only half listening. "Look, I'd really like to hear more about your adventure in Peru, but right now Right now, all I care about is getting across the goddamn runway. We were there again. Now we're back in action. We were flashing along at good speed. I was looking for an opening, some kind of access road, some lane across the runway to the terminal. We were 5 miles past the last stoplight, and there wasn't enough time to turn around and go back to it. There was only one way to make it on time. I hit the brakes and eased while I wailed down the greasy moat between the two freeway lanes. The ditch was too deep for a head-on run, so I took it at an angle. The whale almost rolled, but I kept the wheels turning and careened up the opposite bank and into the oncoming lane. Fortunately, it was empty. We came out of the moat with the nose of the car up in the air like a hydroplane, then bounced on the freeway and kept right on going into the cactus field on the other side. I recall running over a fence at some kind of dragging at a few hundred yards, but by the time we got to the runway, we were fully under control. Screaming along about 60 miles an hour in low gear, and it looked like a wide open run all the way to the terminal. My only worry was the chance of getting crushed like a roach in an oncoming DC-8, which we probably didn't see until it was right on top of us. I wondered if they could see us from the tower. Probably so. But why worry? I kept the thing floored. There was no point in turning back now. My attorney was hanging onto the dashboard with both hands. I glanced over and saw fear in his eyes. His face appeared to be gray, and I seemed he was not happy with this move. But we were going so fast across the runway, then cactus, then runway again, that I knew he understood our position. We were past the point of debating the wisdom of this move. It was already dope. It was already done. Done. And our only way was to get past the other side. I looked at my skeleton face accoutrement and saw that we had 3 minutes and 15 seconds before takeoff. Plenty of time, I said. Get your stuff together. I'll drop your net right next to the plane. I could see the big red and silver Western jetliner about 1,000 yards ahead of us. By this time, we were skimming across the smooth asphalt past the incoming runway. No, he shouted. I can't get out. They'll crucify me. I'll have to take the blame. No, he shouted. I can't get out. They'll crucify me. I'll have to take the blame. Ridiculous. Just say you were hitchhiking to the airport, and I picked you up. You never saw me before. Shit. This town is full of white Cadillac convertibles, and I plan to go through there so fast nobody will ever glimpse the goddamn license plate. When we were approaching the plane, I could see passengers boarding, but so far, nobody had noticed us approaching from this unlikely direction. Are you ready? I said. He groaned. Why not? But for Christ's sake, let's do it fast. He was scanning the loading area, and then he pointed. Over there! Drop me behind that big van. Just pull behind it, and I'll jump out where they can't see me. Then you can make a run for it. I nodded. So far, we had all the room we needed. No sign of alarm or pursuit. I wondered if maybe this kind of thing happened all the time in Vegas. Cars full of late arriving passengers screeching desperately across the runway, dropping off wild-eyed Samoans clutching mysterious canvas bags who would sprint into planes at the last possible second and then roar off into the sunrise. Maybe so, I thought. Maybe this kind of thing is standard procedure in this town. I swung in behind the van and hit the brakes just long enough for my attorney to stomp out. Don't take any guff from those swine. Oh wait, that's me. Don't take any guff from those swine. Remember, if you have any trouble, you can always send a telegram to the right people. He grinned. Yeah. Explaining my position. Some asshole wrote a poem about that once. It's probably good advice if you have shit for brains. He waved me off. Right, I said, moving out. I already spotted a break in the big hurricane fence, and now, with the whale in the low gear, I went in for it. Nobody seemed to be chasing me. I couldn't understand it. I glanced at the mirror and saw my attorney climbing into the plane. No sign of a struggle. And then, I was through the gate and out the early morning traffic on the Paradise Road. I took a fast ride on Russell and then on the Maryland Parkway, and suddenly I was cruising in warm annoyance and warm anonymity. Anonymity. Sorry. Past the campus of the University of Las Vegas. No tension of these faces. I stopped at a red light and got lost for a moment in a sunburst of flesh in the crosswalk. Fine, sinewy thighs, pink miniskirts, ripe young nipples, sleeveless blouses, long sweeps of blonde hair, pink lips, and blue eyes. All the hallmarks of dangerously innocent culture. I was tempted to pull over and start mumbling obscenities. Hey, sweetie, let's you and me get weird. Jump into this hot dog caddy and we'll flash over to the suite at the Flamingo. Load up on ether and behave like wild animals in my private kidney-shaped pool. Sure we will, I thought. But by this time I was far down the parkway, easing into the turn lane for the left at the Flamingo Road. Back to the hotel to take stock. There was every reason to believe I was heading for trouble, and that I pushed my luck a bit far. I abused every rule Vegas lived by, burning the locals, abusing the tourists, terrifying the help. The only hope now I felt was the possibility that we'd gone to such excess with our gig that nobody in position to bring the hammer down on us could possibly believe it. Particularly not since we'd signed in with the police conference. When you bring an act into this town, you want to bring it in heavy. Don't waste any time with cheap shucks and misdemeanors. Go ahead for the jugular. Get right into the felonies. The mentality of Las Vegas is so grossly atavistic that really massive crime often slips by unrecognized. One of my neighbors recently spent a week in the Vegas jail for vagrancy. He was about 20 years old, long hair, Levi jacket, knapsack, and out front a drifter, a straight road person. To totally harmless, he was just wanderers around the country looking for whatever it was that we all thought would be nailed down in the 60s. Sort of an early Bob Zimmerman trip. On a trip from Chicago to L.A., he got curious about Vegas and decided to look at it, just passing through, strolling and digging the sights of the Strip. No hurry. Why rush? He was standing on a street corner near the Circus watching the multicolored fountain when the cop cruiser pulled up. Wham! Straight to jail. No phone call, no lawyer, no charge. They put me in the back of the car and took me down to the station, he said. They took me onto a big room full of people and told me to take off all my clothes before they booked me. I was standing in front of the big desk about 6 feet tall with a cop sitting behind it and looking down at me like I was some kind of medieval judge. The room was full of people, maybe a dozen prisoners, twice as that many cops, and then about 10 police women. You had to walk into the middle of the room and take everything out of your pockets and put it up on the desk and then strip naked with everybody watching you. I only had about $20 and the fine for vagrancy was $25. So they put me over on the bench with people who were going to jail. Nobody hassled me. It was like an assembly line. The two guys right behind me were long hairs, acid people. They'd been picked up for vagrancy too. But when they started emptying their pockets, the whole room freaked because between them they had $130,000, mostly in big bills. The cops couldn't believe it. These guys were just pulling it out wads of money and dumping it on there on the desk. But both of them looked naked and kind of hunched over, were not saying anything. The cops went crazy when they saw that they had all this money. They started whispering to each other shit. There was no way they could hold these guys for vagrancy. He laughed. So they charged him with suspicion of evasion of income taxes. They took us all to jail. These two guys were about nuts. They were dealers, of course, and they had their stash in the back of their hotel room, so they could get out before the cops found them where they were staying. They offered one of the guards $100 to go out and get the best lawyer in town. And about 20 minutes later, there he was, yelling about habeas corpus and that kind of shit. Hell, I tried to talk to him myself, but this guy had one-track mind. I told him I could make bail and even pay him something if he'd let me call my father in Chicago, but he was too busy hustling for these other guys. About 2 hours later, he came back with the guard and said, let's go. They were out. One of the guys had told me while they were waiting that it was going to cost them $30,000, and I guess it did, but what the hell? That's cheap compared to what could have happened if they hadn't gotten themselves sprung. They finally let me send a telegram to my old man, and he wired me $125. But it took 7 or 8 days. I'm not sure how long I was in there because that place didn't have any windows, and they fed us every 12 hours. You lose track of time when you can't see the sun. They had 75 guys in each cell, big rooms with toilet bowl out in the middle. They gave you a pallet when you came in, and you slept wherever you wanted. The guy next to me had been in there for 30 years for robbing a gas station. When I finally got out, the cop on the desk took another $25 out of what my father sent me, on top of what I owed for the vagrancy fine. What could I say? He just took it. And then he gave me another $75 and said they had a taxi waiting for me outside for the ride to the airport. When I got to the cab, the driver said, we're not making any stops, fella, and you better not move until we get to the terminal. I didn't move a goddamn muscle. He'd have shot me. I'm sure of that. I went straight to the plane. I didn't say a word to know anybody. I knew we were out of Nevada. Man, that's one place I'll never go back to. See, I wasn't in the movie either. Hi, Sarah. I gotta blow my nose. Almost done. Almost done. I was like one of Hunter's friends that went to Vegas and had a bad time. They could have put that in there. I wonder who would have played him. Leonardo DiCaprio. They put on a different record. I wait. Highway.
happy. Be happy. Don't worry. Be happy. Do 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 do. Oh, I'll do that later. Okay. What's this? I forget if I played these for you guys. No. There we go. There we go. The Crocodiles, the Homies Band. I love this album. Specific song. The Boy is a Tramp. My favorite song on this record.
Okay. Oh, Sarah, baby, give me a little heart. Okay. Part 11. Fraud, larceny, rape, a brutal connection with the Alice from Linen Service. Brutal connection with Alice from Linen Service. Let's see. Hi. Oh yeah, the fucking maid. I forgot about the maid. Okay, this is in the movie. I was brooding on this tale as I was eased with White Whale into the Flamingo parking lot. $50 and a week in jail for just standing on a corner and acting curious. Jesus, what kind of incredible penalties would they spew out on me? I checked off the various charges, but in skeleton legal language from form, they didn't seem so bad. Rape? We could surely beat that one. I'd never even coveted the goddamn girl, much less put my hands on her flesh. Fraud? Larceny? I could always offer to settle, pay it off. Say I was sent out here by Sports Illustrated and then drag the Time Inc. lawyers into a nightmare lawsuit, tie them up for years with a blizzard of writs and appeals, attach all their assets in a place like Juneau and Houston, and then constantly file motions for charge of venue to Quito, Nome, and Aruba. Keeping the thing moving, run them in circles, force them into conflict with the accounting department. Interesting. Hold on, let me clean my glasses. Where's my rag? Oh, found it. You guys are the best. You guys are the best. Thank you for enjoying this, even if you left and came back and things like that. I just want to see if I could do it, really. There we go. Okay. It's getting a little rough, though. The sheet for Abner H. Dodge, Chief Counsel. Item, $44,066.12. Special outlay to wit. We pursued the defendant, Raoul Duke, throughout the Western Hemisphere, and finally brought him to bay in a village on the north shore of an island known as Culebra in the Caribbean, where his attorneys obtained a ruling that all further proceedings should be conducted in the language of the Carib tribe. We sent 3 men to Berlitz for this purpose, but 19 hours before the date scheduled for opening arraignments, the defendant fled to Colombia, where he established residence in a fishing village called Guajira, near the Venezuelan border, where the official language of jurisprudence is an obscure dialect known as Guajiro. After many months, we were able to establish jurisdiction in this place. But by that time, the defendant had moved his residence to a virtually inaccessible part of the headwaters of the Amazon River, where he cultivated powerful connections with a tribe of headhunters called Ibarros. Our stringer in the Manaus was dispatched upriver to locate and hire a native attorney conversant in Jibaro. But this search has been hampered by a serious communications problem. There is a grave concern in our Rio office that the window of the aforementioned Manaus stringer might obtain a ruinous judgment due to bias in the local courts, for larger than anything in a jury in our own country would consider reasonable or even sane. That's funny. Indeed, but what is sane, especially here in our own country? This is the doomstruck era of Nixon. We're all wired into a supernatural survival trip now. No more the speed that fueled the 60s. Uppers are going out of style. This was the fatal flaw of Timothy Leary's trip. He crushed around America selling consciousness expansion, without ever giving a thought to the grim meat hook realities that were lying in wait for all the people who took him seriously. After West Point and the priesthood, LSD must have seemed entirely logical for him. But there is not much satisfaction in knowing that he blew it very badly for himself, because he took too many others down with him. Not that they didn't deserve it, no doubt. They all got what was coming to them. All those pathetically eager acid freaks who thought they could buy peace and understanding for $3 a hit. But their loss and failure is ours too. What Leary took down with him was the central illusion of a whole lifestyle that helped to create a generation of permanent cripples, failed seekers, who never understood the essential old mystic fallacy of acid culture. The desperate assumption that somebody, or at least some force, is tending that light at the end of the tunnel. This is the same cruel and paradoxically benevolent bullshit that has kept the Catholic Church going for so many centuries. It's also a military ethic, a blind faith in some higher and wiser authority, the Pope, the General, the Prime Minister, all the way to God. One of the crucial moments of the 60s came on that day when the Beatles cast their lot with the Maharishi. It was like Dylan going to the Vatican to kiss the Pope's ring. First gurus, then, that didn't work, back to Jesus. And now, following Manson's primitive instinct, lead a whole new wave of clan-type commune gods like Mel Lyman, ruler of Avatar, and what's his name, who runs spirit and flesh. Sonny Barger never quite got the hang of it, but he'll never know how close he was to a King Hell breakthrough. The Angels blew it in 1965 at the Oakland-Berkeley line, where they acted on Barger's hardest con boss instincts and attacked the front ranks of an anti-war march. They proved to be a historic schism in the rising tide of the youth movement in the 60s. It was the first open break between the greasers and the long hairs, and the importance of that break can be read in the history of SDS, which eventually destroyed itself in doomed effort to reconcile the interests of the lower working class biker dropout types and the upper middle Berkeley students activists. Nobody involved in that scene at the time could possibly have foreseen the implications of Ginsburg-Kesey's failure to persuade the Hells Angels to join forces with the radical left from Berkeley. The final split came from Altamont 4 years later, but by that time it had been long and clear everybody except a handful of rock industry dopers and the national press. The orgy of violence at Altamont merely dramatized the problem. The realities were already fixed. The illness was understood to be terminal, and the energies of the movement were long since aggressively disputed by the rush to self-preservation. This terrible gibberish. Grim memories from the flashbacks looming up through the time fog of Stanyan Street. No solace for refugees. No point in looking back. The question was always this: is always this now? I was slumped on my bed from the flamingo feeding dangerously on the phase of my surroundings. Something ugly was about to happen. I was sure the room looked like the site of some disastrous zoological experiment involving whiskey and gorillas. The 10-foot mirror was shattered, but still hanging together. Bad evidence of that afternoon when my attorney ran amok and the coconut hammer smashing the mirror at all the light bulbs. We'd replace the lights with a package of red and blue Christmas tree lights from Safeway. There was no hope of replacing the mirror. My attorney's bed looked like a burned-out rat's nest. Fire had consumed the top half, and the rest was a mess of wire and charred stuffing. Luckily, the maids hadn't come near the room since that awful confrontation on Tuesday. I had been asleep when the maid came in that morning. We'd forgotten to hang out the Do Not Disturb sign, so she wandered into the room and startled my attorney, who was kneeling, stark naked, in the closet, vomiting under his shoes, thinking he was actually in the bedroom, and then suddenly looking up to see the woman with a face like Mickey Rooney staring down at him, unable to speak, trembling with fear and confusion. She was holding that mop like an axe handle. She said later, so I came out of the closet and kind of a running crouch, still vomiting, and hit her right in the knees. It was pure instinct. I thought she was ready to kill me. And then she screamed. That's when I put the ice bag on her mouth. Yes, I remember that scream. One of the most terrifying sounds I'd ever heard. I woke up and saw my attorney grappling desperately on the floor next to my bed with what appeared to be an old woman. The room was full of powerful electric noise, the TV set hissing at the top volume and a non-existent channel. I could barely hear the woman's muffled cries as she struggled to get the ice bag away from her face. But she was no match for my attorney's naked bulk, and he finally managed to pin her in a corner behind the TV set, clamping his hands on her throat while she babbled pitifully.
Please, please, I'm only the maid. I didn't mean nothing.
It was out of bed in a flash, grabbing my wallet and waving the Gold Policeman's Benevolent Association press badge in front of your face.
You're under arrest, I shouted.
No, she groaned. I just wanted to clean up.
My attorney got to his feet, breathing heavily.
She must have used a pass key. I was polishing my shoes in the closet when I noticed her sneaking in, so I took her. He was trembling, drooling vomit across his chin. I could see at a glance that he was understanding the gravity of the situation. Our behavior this time had gone far and past the boundaries of private kindness. Here we were, both naked, staring down at the terrified old woman, a hotel employee,
stretched out on the floor with our sweet paroxysm of fear and hysteria. She would have to deal with it.
What made you do it?
I asked her.
Who paid you off?
Nobody. I'm the maid.
You're lying. You were after the evidence. Who put you up to this?
The manager?
Ow, my back hurts. Almost done.
Who put you up to this? The manager?
I work for the hotel. All I do is clean up the rooms.
I turned to my attorney. This means that they know that we're here. So they sent this poor old woman out here to steal it. This means they know what we have. So they put this poor old woman up here to steal it.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Bullshit. You're just as much of a part of it as they are.
Part of what?
The dope ring.
You must know what's going on in the hotel. Why do you think you're here? She stared at us, trying to speak, but only blundering.
I know you're cops, she said finally. But I thought you were here just for the convention, I swear. All I wanted to do was clean up your room. I don't know anything about dope.
My attorney laughed. Come on, baby.
Oh, come on, baby.
Don't try and tell us you never heard of George Gorman.
No, I swear to Jesus, I've never heard of that stuff.
I don't know who that is either. My attorney seemed to think for a moment that he leaned down to help the old lady to her feet.
Maybe she's telling the truth, he said to me. Maybe she's not part of it.
No, I swear I'm not.
Well, in that case, maybe we won't have to put her away. Maybe she can help.
Yes, I will help you all you need. I hate dope.
So do we, lady. I think we should get her on the payroll.
Have it checked out, then line her up for a big one each month, depending on what she comes up with. The old woman's face changed markedly. She no longer seemed disturbed to find herself chatting with two naked men, one of whom had tried to strangle her just a few moments earlier.
Do you think you can
handle it?
No, wait. Do you think you can handle it?
I asked her.
What?
On the phone, one phone call every day. Just tell us what you've seen. I patted her on the shoulder. Don't worry. If it doesn't add up, that's our problem.
You'd pay me for that?
You're damn right.
But the first time you say anything about this to anybody,
you go straight to prison for the rest of your life.
I'll help you any way that I can. But who should I call?
Don't worry. What's your name?
Alice.
Just ring linen service and ask for Alice. You'll be contacted.
It'll take about a week, but meanwhile, just keep your eyes open and try to act normal. Can you do that?
Oh, yes, sir. Will I see you gentlemen again?
She grinned sheepishly.
After this, I mean?
No. They sent us down from Carson City. You'll be contacted by Inspector Rock, off the Rock. He'll be posing as a politician, but you won't have any troubles recognizing him. She seemed to be shuffling nervously. What's wrong? I said. Is there something you haven't told us?
Oh no. I was just wondering, who's going to pay me?
Inspector Rock will take care of that. It'll all be in cash, $1,000, on the 9th of every month.
Oh Lord. I'd do just about anything for that.
You and a lot of other people. You'd be surprised who we have on payroll, right here in the same hotel.
Would I know them?
Probably, but they're all undercover. The only way you'll ever know is if something really serious happens, and one of them has to contact you in public with that password.
What is it?
One hand washes the other. The minute you hear that, you say, I fear nothing. That way, they'll know you. She nodded, repeating the code several times while we listened to make sure that she had it right. Okay, that's it for now. We probably won't be seeing you again until Hammer comes down. You'll be better off ignoring us until we leave. Don't bother to make up the room. Just leave a pile of towels and soap outside the door. Exactly at midnight. That way, we won't have to risk another one of these little incidents, will we? She moved toward the door.
Whatever you say, gentlemen. I can't tell you how sorry I am that what happened, but that was only because I didn't realize.
We understand. But it's all over now. Thank God for decent people. She smiled as she closed the door behind her. Okay. Woo, man. Almost. Just a little bit. A few more pages. Okay. Return to the circus, looking for the ape to hell with the American dream. Oh, my eyes. Okay. Almost 72 hours had passed since the strange... My nose hurts from my glasses, but I have to read with them, but I'm not, so let's try. Almost 72 hours had passed since the strange encounter, and no maid had set foot in the room. I wonder what Alice had told them. We had seen her once, trundling a laundry cart across the parking area as we rolled up to the whale. But we offered no sign of recognition, and she seemed to understand. But it couldn't last much longer. The room was full of used towels. They were hanging everywhere. The bathroom floor was about 6 inches deep with soap bars, vomit, and grapefruit rinds, mixed with broken glass. I had to put my boots on every time I went to there to piss. The nap of the mottled gray rug was so thick with marijuana seeds that it appeared to be turning green. The general back alley ambience of the suite was so rotten and so incredibly foul that I figured I could probably get away with cleaning it in some kind of lice exhibit. That we'd brought down from Height Street to show cops from other parts of the country how deep into filth and degeneracy the drug people will sink if left to their own devices. But what kind of addict would need all these coconut husk and crushed honeydew rinds? Would the presence of junkies account for all these uneaten french fries? These puddles of glazed ketchup on the bureau? Maybe so. But then, why all this booze? And these crude, pornographic photos ripped out of the pulp magazines like horrors of Sweden and orgies in the Casbah. They were plastered on the broken mirror with smears of mustard that had dried into a hard yellow crust. And all these signs of violence, these strange red and blue bulbs and shards of broken glass embedded into the wallpaper. I gotta switch the record, you guys. Good stuff. Hi, whoever's still here. How are you? Okay. I think I just gotta flip it. Flippies! Flip-a-doo. Flip. There we go. Okay. Back. There were no hoof prints of your normal God-fearing junkie. It was far too savage, too aggressive. There was evidence in this room of excessive consumption of almost every type of drug known to civilized man since 1544 AD. It could only be explained as a montage a sort of exaggerated medical exhibit put together very carefully to show what happened if 22 serious drug felons, each with a different addiction, were penned up together in the same room for 5 days and 5 nights without relief. Indeed. But of course that would never happen in real life, gentlemen. We just put this thing together for demonstration purposes. Suddenly the phone was ringing, jerking me out of the fantasy stupor. I looked at it. Ring! Jesus, what's now? Is this it? I could almost hear the shrill voice of the manager, Mr. Heem, saying that the police were on their way up to my room, and would I please not shoot through the door when they began kicking it down. Ring! No, they wouldn't call first. Once they decided to take me, they would probably set an ambush in the elevator. First mace, then a gang swarm. It would come with no warning. So I picked up the phone. It was my friend Bruce Inez, calling from the Circus. He had located the man who wanted to sell the ape I'd been inquiring about. The price was $750. What kind of greed head are we dealing with? I said. Last night, it was $400. He claims he found out it was housebroken, said Bruce. He let it sleep in the trailer last night, and the thing actually shit in the shower stall. That doesn't mean anything, I said. Apes are attracted to water. Next time it'll shit in the sink. Maybe you should come down and argue with the guy, said Bruce. He's here in the bar with me. I told him you really wanted an ape that you could give it a fine home. I think he'll negotiate. He's really attached to this stinking thing. It's here in the bar with us, sitting up on a goddamn stool, slobbering into a beer schooner. Okay, I said. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't let the bastard get drunk. I want to meet him under natural conditions. I wish he met a monkey. There's like a monkey statue, though, right at the entrance of the Circus Hotel in the film. And Johnny Depp actually has it. It's in his, I don't know if it's in his front yard or his backyard. And like, his neighbors hate it. Pretty cool. It's all like tagged up and shit too. Alright. Okay. 10 minutes natural. When I go to the Circus, they were loading an old man into an ambulance outside the main door. What happened? I asked the car keeper. I'm not sure, he said. Somebody said he had a stroke, but I noticed the back of his head was all cut up. He slid into the whale and handed me a stub. Want me to save your drink for you? He asked, holding up a big blast of tequila. That was on the seat of the car. I can put it in the cooler if you want. Nodded. These people were familiar with my habits. I had been in and out of that place so often. With Bruce and the other band members, and the car keepers knew my name. Although I'd never been introduced myself, and nobody ever asked me, I just assumed it was part of the gig here. That they'd probably rifled the glove compartment and found a notebook with my name on it. The real reason, which didn't occur to me at the time, was that I was still wearing my ID badge from the district attorney's conference. It was dangling from the pocket flap of my multicolored bird shooting jacket. But I'd long since forgotten about it. No doubt they all assumed I was some kind of super weird undercover agent. Or maybe not. Maybe they were just humoring me because they figured anybody crazy enough to pose as a cop while driving around in Vegas in a white Cadillac convertible with a drink in his hand almost had to be a heavy. And perhaps even dangerous. Ooh! Hey guys. In a scene where nobody with any ambition is really what he appears to be, there's not much risk in acting like a king hell freak. The overseers will nod wisely at each other and mutter about these goddamn no-class put-ons. The other side of that coin is the goddamn, who's that, syndrome. This comes from people like doormen and floor walkers who assume that anybody who acts crazy but still tips big must be important, which means you should be humored or at least treated gently. But none of these makes any difference with a head full of mescaline. You just blunder around doing anything that seems to be right. And it usually is. Vegas is so full of natural freaks, people are genuinely twisted. But drugs aren't really a problem, except for cops who skag and the skag syndicate. Psychedelics are almost irreverent in the town where you can wander into a casino any time of the day, any night, and witness the crucifixion of a gorilla. Or on a flaming neon cross that suddenly turns into a pinwheel, spinning the beast around in wild circles around the covered gambling action. I found Bruce at the bar. There was no sign of the ape. Where is it? I demanded. I'm ready to write a check. I want to take the bastard back home on the plane with me. I've already reserved 2 first-class seats, Raoul Duke and Son. Take him on the plane? Hell yes. You think they'd say anything? Call attention to my son's infirmaries? He struggled. Forget it, he said. They just took him away. He attacked an old man right here at the bar. The creep started hassling the bartender about allowing barefoot rabble in the place, so they just took the ape and let out a shriek. So the old guy threw a beer at him and the ape went crazy. Came out of his seat like a jack-in-the-box and took a big bite of the old man's head. The bartender had to call an ambulance. Then the cops came and took the ape away. God damn it! What's the bail? I want that ape! Get a grip on yourself. You better stay clear of that jail. That's all they'll need to put you in cuffs on you. Forget that ape. You don't need him. I gave it some thought and decided he was probably right. There was no sense in blowing everything for the sake of some violent ape I'd never even met. For all I know, he'd take a bite out of my head if I tried to bail him out. It would take him a while to come down, and after the shock of being put behind bars, I couldn't afford to wait around. When are you taking off? Bruce asked. As soon as possible. No point hanging around this town any longer. I have all I need. Anything else would only confuse me. You found the American dream in this town? I nodded. We're sitting on the main nerve right now. You remember that story the manager told us? The owner of this place? How he always wanted to run away and join the circus when he was a kid? Bruce ordered 2 more beers. He looked over the casino for a moment. He shrugged. Yeah, I see what you mean. Now that the bastard has his own circus and a license to steal too. You're right. He's the model. Absolutely. It's pure Horatio Alger. All the way down to this attitude. I tried to have a talk with him, but some heavy-sounding dyke who claimed to be an executive secretary told me to fuck off. She said he hates the press worse than anything in America. Him and Spyro Agnew. They're both right. I tried to tell the woman that I agreed with everything he stood for. But she said if I knew what was good for me, I'd get the hell out of town and not even think about bothering the boss. He really hates reporters. I don't mean this to sound like a warning, but if I were you, I'd take it that way. The boss is paying him $1,000 a week to work two sets a night on the Leopard Lounge, and another $2,000 for the group. All they had to do was make a hell of a lot of noise for 2 hours every night. The boss didn't give a flying fuck what kind of songs they sang, just as long as the beat was heavy and the amps were turned up loud enough to lure people into the bar. It was strange there in Vegas to hear Bruce singing powerful stuff like Chicago and country song. If the management had bothered to hear the lyrics, the whole band would have been tarred and feathered. Several months later in Aspen, Bruce sang some songs at a club jammed with tourists and a former astronaut. When the last year was over, he came over to our table and began yelling all kinds of drunken super patriot gibberish, hitting on Bruce about what kind of nerve does a goddamn Canadian have to come down here and insult us with this country. Say man, I'm an American. I live here and I agree with every fucking word he says. At this point, the hash bouncers appeared, grinning insecurably and saying good evening to the gentleman. The I Ching says it's time to be quiet, right? And nobody hassles the musicians at this place. Is that clear? The astronaut left muttering darkly about using his influence to get something done damn quick about the immigration statuses. What's your name? He asked me, as the hash bouncers eased him away. Bob Zimmerman, I said. And there's one thing I hate in this world. It's a goddamn bonehead Pollock. You think I'm a Pollock? He screamed. You dirty gold bricker. You're all shit. You don't represent this country. Christ. Let's hope to hell you don't, Bruce muttered. We're still raving as they muscled it. I don't know what's going on. We're still raving as they muscled him out to the street the next night in another restaurant. The astronaut was scarfing up his chow, stone sober, when a 14-year-old boy appeared to the table to ask for his autograph. Blank acted, name deleted at instance of publisher's lawyer. Blank acted coy for a moment, finding embarrassment, then he scrawled his signature on a small piece of paper the boy handed him. The boy looked at it for a moment and tore it into small pieces and dropped it in Blank's lap. Not everybody loves you, man, he said. Then he went back and sat down at his own table about 6 feet away. The astronaut's party was speechless. I was an astronaut. 8 or 10 people's wives, managers, favorite senior engineers, showing Blank a good time at fabulous Aspen. Oh, it's probably Buzz Aldrin, isn't he the asshole? A good time. Now they look like somebody just sprayed their table with shit mist. Nobody said a word. They ate quickly and left without tipping. So much for Aspen and astronauts. I'm going to say Buzz Aldrin would never have that type of trouble in Vegas. A bit of this town goes a long way. After 5 days in Vegas, you feel like you've been here for 5 years. Nixon, too. He would have made a perfect mayor for this town, with John Mitchell as sheriff and Agnew as master of sewers. Alright. Oh yeah, almost done. 13. Part 213. End of the road. Death of the whale. Soaking the sweats in the airport. When I tried to sit down at the baccarat table and the bouncers put one arm in me, "You don't belong here," one of them said quietly, "Let's go outside." "Why not?" I said. They took me to the front entrance and signaled for the whale to be brought up. "Where's your friend?" they asked. While we waited, I said, "What friend?" They said, "The big spick." "Look, I'm a doctor of journalism. You never catch me hanging around this place with a goddamn spick." "Then what about this?" And they confronted me with a big photograph of me and my attorney sitting at a table at a floating bar.
I have that picture, actually.
I shrugged. "That's not me. That's a guy named Thompson. He works for Rolling Stone. A really vicious, crazy kind of person that guy sitting next to him is a hitman for the mafia in Hollywood." "Shit. Have you studied his photograph? What kind of a maniac would roam around Vegas wearing a black glove?" We noticed that. Where is he now?" "He moves pretty fast. His orders come out of St. Louis." "How do you know all this stuff?" I showed them my gold PBA badge, flashing it quickly with my back to the crowd. "Act natural," I whispered. "Don't put me on the spot." They were still standing there when I drove off in the whale. The geek had brought it up exactly the right moment. I gave him a $5 bill and hit the street with a stylish screech of rubber. It was all over now. I drove across to the Flamingo and loaded all my luggage into the car. I tried to put the top up for privacy, but something was wrong with the motor. The generator light had been on, fiery red, ever since I'd driven the thing into Lake Mead on a water test. A quick run along the dashboard disclosed that every circuit in the car was totally fucked. Nothing worked, not even the headlights. And when I hit the air conditioner button, I heard a nasty explosion under the hood. The top was jammed about halfway up. I decided to try for the airport. If this goddamn junker wouldn't run right, I could always abandon it to call a cab. The hell with this garbage from Detroit. They shouldn't have allowed to get away with it. The sun was coming up where I could go to the airport. I left the whale in the VIP parking lot. A kid about 15 years old checked it in, but I refused to answer his question. He was very excited about the overall condition of the vehicle. "Holy God," he kept shouting. "How did this happen?" He kept moving around the car, pointing at various dents, rips, and crushed places. "I know. They beat the shit out of it. This is a terrible goddamn town for driving around in convertibles. The worst time was right out of the boulevard in front of the Sahara. You know the corner where all the junkies hang out? Jesus. I couldn't believe it when they went all crazy at once." The kid was none too bright. His face had gone blank early on, and now he seemed in a state of mute fear. "Don't worry, I'm insured." I showed him the contract, pointing at the small print clause where it said I was insured against all damages for only $2 a day. The kid was still nodding when I fled. I felt a bit guilty about leaving him to the deal with the car, but there was no way to explain the massive damage. It was finished. A wreck. Totaled out. Under normal circumstances, I could have been seized and arrested when I tried to turn it in. But not at this hour in the morning, with only this kid to deal with. I was, after all, a VIP. Otherwise, they would have charactered the car to me in the first place. Oh wait, they never would have chartered the car to me in the first place. Excuse me. Let the chickens come home to roost, I thought as I hurried into the airport. It was still early to act normal. So I hunkered down in the coffee shop behind LA Times. Somewhere down the corridor, a jukebox was playing One Toke Over the Line. I listened for a moment, but my nerve ends were no longer receptive. The only song I might have been able to relate to at one point was Mr. Tambourine Man, or maybe Memphis Blues again. "Oh, mama, can this really be the anthem?" Dylan, there you go. My plane left at 8, which meant I had 2 hours to kill. Feeling desperately visible, there was no doubt in my mind that they were looking for me. The net was closing down. It was only a matter of time before they ran me down like some kind of rabid animal. I checked all my luggage to their chute, all but the leather satchel, which was full of drugs, and the .357. Did the goddamn metal detector system in this air... Did they have a goddamn metal detector system in this airport? I strolled around to the boarding gate and tried to look casual while I cased the area for black boxes. None were visible. I decided to take a chance. Just zipped through the gate with a big smile on my face, mumbling distractedly about a bad slump in the hardware market. Just another failed salesman checking out. Blame it all on that bastard Nixon. Indeed, I decided it might look more natural if I found somebody to chat with. A routine line of small talk between passengers. Hi, you fella. I guess you're probably wondering what makes me sweat like this. Yeah, well, goddamn, man. Have you read the newspapers today? You never believe what those dirty bastards have done this time. I figured that would cover it, but I couldn't find anybody who looked safe enough to talk to. The whole airport was full of people who looked like they might go for my floating rib if I was to make a false move. I felt very paranoid, like some kind of criminal skull sucker in the Lamb from Scotland Yard. Everywhere I looked, I saw pigs, because on that morning in the Las Vegas airport was full of cops. A mass exodus after the climax of the district attorney's conference. When I finally put this together, I felt much better about the health of my own brain. Everything seems to be ready. Are you ready? Ready? Well, why not? This is a heavy day in Vegas. 1,000 cops are checking out of town, scurrying through the airport in groups of 3 and 6. They're heading back home. The drug conference is finished. The airport lounge is humming with mean-talking bodies, short beers and Bloody Marys. Here and there, a victim of chest rash rubbing Mexana under... What is that? Mexana? I don't know that word. Mexana under the armpit straps of thick shoulder holsters. No point holding the business any longer. Let it all hang out. Or at least, get some air to it. Yes. Thank you kindly. I think I busted a button on my trousers. I hope they don't fall down. You don't want my trousers to fall down, do you? Fuck no. Not today. Not here in the middle of the Las Vegas airport. On this sweaty, hard morning in the tail end of the mass meeting in narcotics and dangerous drugs. When the train comes in station, I looked her in the eye. Okay, more lyrics. Grim music in this airport. Yes, it's hard to tell when all your love's in vain. I don't know that song. Hold on. I gotta put on another record. Almost done. Almost done. Okay. Fletcher C. Johnson. There it is. Fletcher C. Johnson. Cute. He's cute. Okay. Oh. There it is. Okay. Every now and then you run up on one of those days when everything's in vain. A stone bummer from start to finish, and you know what's good for you. On days like this, you think, you sort of hunker down in a safe corner and watch. Maybe think a bit. Lay back on a cheap wooden chair, screened off from traffic, and shrewdly rip off the pop tops of 5 or 8 Budweisers. Smoke off a pack of King Marlboros, eat a peanut butter sandwich, and finally, toward the evening, gobble up a wad of good mescaline. Then drive out, later on to the beach, get out in the surf and the fog, and slosh along numb frozen feet about 10 yards out of the tide line. Stomping through tribes of wild sandpeckers, rider runners, whore hoppers, stupid little birds and crabs and salt suckers. with here and there a big pervert or a woolly reject gimping off into the distance, wandering alone by themselves behind the dunes and driftwood. These are the ones you will never be properly introduced to, at least not if your luck holds. But the beach is less complicated than a boiling fast morning in the Las Vegas airport. I felt very obvious. Amphetamine psychosis, paranoid dementia. Is that it? My Argentine luggage, this crippled lopping walk that made me a reject from the naval ROTC. Indeed, this man will never be able to walk straight again, Captain, because one leg is longer than the other. Not much, 3/8 of an inch or so, which counted out about 2/8 or more than Captain could tolerate. So we parted company. He accepted a command to the South China Sea, and I became a doctor of gonzo journalism. And many years later, killing time in the Las Vegas airport this terrible morning, I picked up a newspaper and saw where Captain had fucked up very badly. Ship commander butchered by natives after accidental assault on Guam. Aboard the USS Crazy Horse somewhere in the Pacific, the entire 3,465-man crew of this Northwest American aircraft carrier is in a violent morning today. After 5 crewmen, including the captain, were diced up like pineapple meat in a brawl with the heroin police at the neutral point of Hong Si. Dr. Bloor, the ship's chaplain, presented over 10 funeral services at the dawn of the flight deck. The 4th Fleet Service Choir sang down the sang Tom Thumb's blues. And then while the ship's bells foiled frantically, the remains of the 5 were set afire on the ground and hurled into the Pacific by a hooded officer known only as the commander. Shortly after the services ended, the crewmen fell to fighting amongst themselves as all communications with the ship were severed for an indefinite period. Official spokesman at the 4th Fleet headquarters on Guam said the Navy had no comment on the situation, pending the results of a top-level investigation by a team of civilian specialists headed by former New Orleans District Attorney James Garrison. Why bother with newspapers? If this is all they offer, Agnew was right. The press is a gang of cruel faggots. Journalism is not a profession or a trade. It's a cheap catch-all for fuck-offs and misfits. A false doorway to the backside of life. A filthy, piss-ridden little hole nailed off by a building inspector. But just deep enough for a wino to curl up from the sidewalk and masturbate like a chimp in a zoo cage. Nice. Alright, 14. I think this is it. Farewell to Vegas. God's mercy on you swine. Oh yeah. As I skulked around the airport, I realized that I was still wearing my police identification badge. This was a flat orange rectangle sealed in a clear plastic that said Raul Duke, Special Investigator, Los Angeles. I saw it on the mirror above the urinal. Get rid of this thing, I thought. Tear it off. The gig's finished. And it proved nothing. At least not to me. And certainly not to my attorney, who also had a badge. But now he was back in Malibu, nursing his paranoid sores. It had been a waste of time. A lame fuck around that was only in clear retrospect, a cheap excuse for 1,000 cops to spend a few days in Las Vegas and lay in the bill on the taxpayers. Nobody had learned anything, or at least nothing new. Except maybe me. And all I learned was that the National District Attorneys Association is about 10 years behind the grim truth and harsh kinetic realities of what they have only just recently learned to call the drug culture in this foul year of our Lord, 1971. They're still burning the taxpayers for thousands of dollars to make films about the dangers of LSD at a time when acid is so widely known to everybody but cops. To me, the Studebaker of the drug market, the popularity of psychedelics has fallen so drastically that most volume dealers no longer even handle quality acid or mescaline except for a favor to special customers, mainly jaded, over 30, drug dilettantes. What? Dilettantes. I don't know that word. Like me. And my only attorney. I gotta look that word up. Sorry, everybody. The big market these days is in downers, reds, and smack. Seasonal and heroin. And a hell broth of bad domestic grass, sprayed with everything from arsenic to horse tranquilizers. What sells today is whatever fucks you up. Whatever short circuits your brain and grounds it out for your longest possible time. The ghetto market has mushroomed into a suburbia. The mill town has turned into a vengeance, to skin popping and even mainlining. And for every ex-speed freak who drifted for relief into smack, there are 200 kids who went straight to the needle off second all. They never even bothered to try speed. Uppers are no longer stylish. Methadone is almost as rare on this 1971 market as pure acid or DMT. Nice mention. Consciousness expansion. Why not with LBJ? And it's not worth noting is historically that Downers came with Nixon. I limped into the plane with no problem except a wave of ugly vibrations from the other passengers. But my head was so burned out by then I wouldn't have cared if I had to climb aboard stark naked and covered with oozing cankers. I could have taken extreme physical force to keep me off that plane. It was so far beyond simple fatigue that I was beginning to feel nicely adjusted to the ideas of permanent hysteria. I felt like the slightest misunderstanding with the stewardess could cause me to either cry or go mad, and the woman seemed to sense this because she treated me very gently. When I wanted more ice cubes for my Bloody Marys, she brought them quickly, and when I ran out of cigarettes, she gave me a pack from her own purse. The only time she seemed nervous was when I pulled a grapefruit out of my satchel and began slicing it with a hunting knife. I noticed her watching me closely, so I tried to smile. I never got anywhere without grapefruit, and I said, "It's hard to get a really good one, unless you're rich." She nodded. I flashed her the grimmest smile again, but it was hard to know that she was thinking. It was entirely possible. I knew that she already decided to have me taken off the plane in a cage when we got to Denver. I stared fixedly into her eyes for a time, but she kept herself under control. I was asleep when our plane hit the runway, but the jolt brought me instantly awake. I looked out the window and saw the Rocky Mountains. What the fuck was I doing here? I wondered. It made no sense at all. I decided to call my attorney as soon as possible. Have him wire me some money to buy a huge albino Doberman. Denver is a national clearinghouse for stolen Dobermans. They come from all parts of the country. Since I was already here, I thought I might as well pick up a vicious dog, but first, something for my nerves. Immediately after the plane landed, I rushed to the corridor of the airport drugstore and asked the clerk for a box of Amyls. She began to fidget and shake her head. "Oh no," she said finally. "I can't sell you those things except by prescription." "I know," I said, "but you see, I'm a doctor. I don't need a prescription." She was still fidgeting. "Well, you'll have to show me some ID," she moaned. "Of course." I jerked out my wallet and let her see my police badge while I flipped through the deck until I located my excellences. Oh, what's a word? Ecclesiastical discount card. I don't know that word, dude. Which identifies me as a doctor of divinity, certified minister of the Church of New Truth. She inspected it carefully and handed it back. I sensed a new respect in her manner. Her eyes grew warm. She seemed to want to touch me. "I hope you'll forgive me, doctor," she said with a fine smile. "But I have to ask. We get some real freaks in this place. All kinds of dangerous addicts. You'd never believe it." "Don't worry," I said. "I understand perfectly. But I have a bad heart." "And I hope certainly," she exclaimed. And within seconds, she was back with a dozen Amyls. I paid without quipping, and the existential I don't know that word, dude. Ecclesiastical discount. Then I opened the box and cracked one under my nose. Immediately while she watched, "Just be thankful your heart is young and strong," I said. "If I were you, I would never." Holy shit. What? "Yes, you have to excuse me. I feel it coming on now." I turned away and reeled off the general direction of this bar. "God's mercy on you, swine," I shouted to two Marines coming out of the men's room. They looked at me but said nothing. By this time I was laughing crazily, but it made no difference. I was just another fucked up cleric with a bad heart. Shit. They'll love me down at the Brown Palace. I took another big hit of the Amyl, and by that time I got to the bar. Heart was full of joy. I felt like a monster. Reincarnation of Horatio Alger. He loves Horatio Alger. I don't even know who that is. A man on the move, and just sick enough to be totally confident. Hey, that's it. That's it. I could read about the author. Want me to read about the author? Let's see. I don't feel like reading about the author. You know who he is. Oh, that was rough. But it was fun. That's the end of the book. Who's still here? Who's awake? Anyone still awake? I see 3 people. Did you all fall asleep on me? That's okay.
So that was Fear and Loathing Las Vegas. This is part 2 of 2 videos I just did back-to-back today on Easter 2020. I read the whole book to you guys. Thank you for everybody who's joining me. I did it, Sarah. I did it, baby. There you are. I hope you had fun. I did. I didn't want to stop. I kept doing it. But now I want to take a break. So I started at 8 o'clock and it's 2, right? 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2... 6 hours? Ah, jeez. Crazy. So, these videos will be on my... Oh, there you are, Eric. These videos will be on my Facebook for a while, so that's cool. And, thank you. And, that's it. All done. Thank you, guys. Bye.